It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Richard Campbell is here. We'll talk about the Windows Insider builds. There's some new stuff coming. We'll also talk about the Amiga. It's back, baby. And shenanigans at Lenovo. That and a whole lot more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 997, recorded Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Bear Swamp and the Boathouse. It's time for Windows Weekly. Hello, you winners and you dozers. This is the show where we talk about the latest news from Microsoft with two of the bestest people in the whole wide world for that particular thing. I wouldn't hire them to do my indoor plumbing, but I would hire them to talk about Microsoft. Mr. Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. Hello, PT. Back in PA.
Yeah, nobody's happy about this.
Really? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's not. We've seen friends, and it's
I had dinner with Mike and Amira Elgin this week. They're back in the country, and they're doing what's called the Schengen Shuffle.
Oh yeah,
because you have to leave to come back,
right,
to renew your visa. Is that true in Mexico too? That you have to spend a certain amount of time? No,
well,
they don't care.
No, they do. So technically, you have. I think it's. Was it 6 months maybe at most?
So you don't have to go back.
But we have residency. We can stay there forever.
Oh, aren't you lucky? Also here, and actually I would trust him to do my plumbing because I feel like Richard could do anything. Richard Campbell from Run His Radio. Hi, Richard.
How are you? I don't have a PEX compression tool, but I have the rest of the parts. So
the fact that you even know what that is inspires me to say, would you like to come here and
I don't need to
check my P-trap? Because so Richard's in the boathouse, which means
better than being in the doghouse.
No, it means it's beautiful and sunny, and
it's very beautiful here. But yeah, I'm here because the 15 minutes before the show, the streaming workstation just took a header.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Very unhappy. And I suspect it's because of the Windows update this week, because my other machine did too. And it required a BIOS update to get working. I think they're tweaking stuff at the TPM level. And if you don't have everything current, very unhappy.
Yep.
Well,
we're going to talk about this a little bit later.
Oh, we are? Oh, good.
This is a Call of Duty problem. You know, it really is.
It really is.
I know it sounds like it's not, but...
I had a similar problem because one morning my framework wouldn't start up, and I am so dependent now on AI that I didn't know what to do. It was like,
how did I do anything?
It's really, I realize how pathetic. It's kind of like when you're driving and you're so dependent on GPS that you don't know whether to turn left or right without the GPS.
Oh yeah, this is my daughter's default stance.
Yeah. I think this is a problem.
It is a problem.
So what's my solution? I just made sure everything was kind of redundant.
The solution is to memorize all of the world's information and not need AI.
There you go. What did I think
your problem is, but
I went to school for that. All right, let's enough jolly talk. Let's get serious. Let's talk about Windows. What's happening?
Not too much.
Okay, well, there we go. Thanks for joining us.
It's not a big deal.
Well, a couple of things, actually. The big things being related to the Insider program. So yesterday, losing track of days, yesterday, Monday, Microsoft announced 5 new builds for the Insider program, which is mostly not that interesting. But in a separate blog post, they talked about one of the things that they're doing around File Explorer, right? Which is redoing the context menus, which is one of the key key initial complaints about Windows 11 when it first came out, right? From Windows 10 guys, like you would right-click the taskbar, for example, instead of getting this giant cascading menu. There was one option initially for taskbar settings. Now we have 2 for Task Manager as well. But then they have these modern context menus that appear when you click within File Explorer on the desktop, which is part of Explorer. And
the dang icons, isn't it?
Well, there was that, right, and there's that weird behavior where if you have something selected like a file or whatever, and you could use cut, copy, paste, etc. Depending on where that menu opens, those buttons will be on the top or the bottom, which kind of messes with your muscle memory. Yep. Initially, they were just Egyptian hieroglyphics. Now they have the words under them. Cut, copy.
They finally put the words back on them. But it felt like the UX designed to make you feel stupid.
Yeah. Well, it was designed by people who are stupid, so that makes sense. No, they really just you just got this vibe that these were like Mac users who had never used Windows. And
what are you doing?
It's pretty, but it's dumb. The kind of blonde supermodel of interfaces or whatever. But but
I like that one too.
Yeah, but the complaints continue, right? So one of the things you can do if you missed the Windows 10 stuff, you can hold down the Shift key, right click, and then you get the old menu, which has more options in it. Not as pretty, but whatever, it has everything. There's a registry / policy change you can also make that will make that permanent if you want to do that. But the complaints have continued. Microsoft. The point of this initially was to make Windows 11 simpler, right? So unfortunately, when you have a big complex OS like Windows, the ways that you make it simpler include removing things. And it turns out there's someone who uses every one of those things, right?
Yep. Removing somebody's cheese, and that somebody has a keyboard.
That's right. And boy, do they complain. So the complaints have just continued. Microsoft over time has added things to this right-click menu, right? So there's like the app actions we've seen in there, like AI actions or whatever, with new submenus and all this stuff. And it's like, guys, seriously. So this build includes Microsoft's first attempt at fixing this problem. And I haven't seen it in person, so I can't say whether or not it's successful, but the menu is still fairly simple. They've taken a bunch of stuff out of the main menu, I guess I'll call it, and put it into a submenu called App Extensions, which is a lot of the open with or edit with. Well, actually, open with is not in there. I'm sorry. But if you have Power Toys installed, for example, all of the Power Toy stuff is in there. Apps that add themselves to the menus now go in this submenu kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it looks pretty good, and that's fine. But the bigger deal to me is that this thing has a settings page now, which it never had, ever, for the context menu. I've never seen such a thing. It looks a lot like the settings page you have in the new Notepad, if you're familiar with that. So it's kind of a list of the actions you can take and other options, and then you can turn them all on or off. So you can actually customize this thing for the first time using a formal UI that Microsoft provides. So I feel like there's going to be more work on this, if that makes sense. I'm curious about one of these things. So one of the options in here is keep cloud storage actions in their own section, right? So of course, OneDrive, there's just a OneDrive option, right? And then a submenu off of that. So I'm just going to go and look and see what it looks like on my computer here. And it doesn't look like anything. So let me go and find a file and choose a file anywhere. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, actually, that's already there. So I'm not sure what that changes. But one of the issues I run into if I use Synology Drive or if I use Google Drive is that those apps add to that context menu, but they don't appear in the default Windows 11 context menu. So if I want to see those options, I have to choose Show More Options at the bottom, and then it brings up the Windows 10 style menu, and then you see those options there. So it's kind of an additional step. But I'm wondering if they won't be able to add themselves to this thing. So instead of just OneDrive, you would see Google Drive, Synology Drive, whatever you have, Box.
That'd be interesting,
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. But to me, anyway, the big deal here is that this is customizable at all. Like, it's actually it's pretty good. So that's good. So if there's stuff like you never use, like send to or print, create shortcut, right? These are things most people probably never use. You can just get rid of them. They won't be in the menu anymore. So that's pretty good. This is not a...
Yeah, now let's add some smart. So if it notices you haven't ever used that, it just sort of takes it away.
Yeah, right. That's like the old off. Actually, Windows 2000, I think, had menus like that, and Office, whatever, probably 2000, whatever version, did that briefly. Of course, taking away UI on the fly is kind of a dicey prospect.
Oh, sure.
If you have like mainstream users, they'd be like,
what if you put it into a faded state where it's like, it's like Marty McFly, like you're disappearing as your timeline is changing.
It's like you better click it or it's going away.
Yeah, either click this or it'll fade away. I mean, you can put it back. It's underneath the other menu, but it's going to fade off this one because you're just not using it.
Yep. So I don't know what to say to that. I feel like Microsoft has tried, not necessarily in this exact UI, but over the years in Windows and in Office to come up with those kinds of things. Like, how do we make something complex simpler? How do we expose options when you need them? How do you, do we give like power users the option just to put everything up there so you can see everything, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know what the best approach is. Honestly, they kind of ping pong from thing to thing, but I just like the look of this, and we'll see where it goes. But I like the look of this customization screen, the settings pane, as they call it.
You like the cut of its jib.
Yeah, there you go. I looked through each of the release notes for the 5 different builds that they have released, right? And there's little things in there, like in experimental, I think there's like a camera roll backup setting now that's kind of interesting or whatever. But honestly, the other big thing in here to me is they're getting rid of drag tray. So, really? Which is just one of the worst interfaces ever designed. So when I bring up a
nobody ever used it, right?
I don't think anyone even knew it was there, to be honest. But when it does come up, it's one of those things that just annoys instantly. So the thing people have seen is there's a snap feature where you drag a window, and as you start to move it around, like that little pane comes down from the top. Right. I hate that thing so much. So, but I hate it because when I go to position something precisely near the top of the screen, it gets in the way, and it will snag the mouse cursor, and then the thing snapped. And it's like, I didn't want that. I'm trying to move it into some precise thing. So I don't need that feature. I disable it. I like that you can disable it. I mean, that's a nice thing. Mm-hmm. So doing this, like having to deal with this over whatever number of years, they introduced this feature called drag tray, which initially was called drop tray. And drop tray does that, but for files. So like it's not appearing on the screen. I must have already turned it up. You could turn this off too. But the way it works, so the way it works is just like Snap. But instead of dragging a window, you drag a file, and if you do that, same thing. Like you get a little pane thing that appears. If you bring it up to that, you get I guess it's a row of icons that are share icons. One of them would let you go to the normal share pane, right? That we've had since Windows 8, when it was in fact actually a pane, but the share window or whatever. They have updated it several times because everyone who did see it and used it hated it and complained about it. They changed the name. Right? Like I said, from it was drop tray, I think was the initial, and then drag tray is the name, whatever. But in each of these builds, there's a note that says, "Thank you to everyone who provided feedback about the drag tray experience. Based on that feedback, we're removing this experience." Like they're like,
you and get lost.
It's like we get it, you hate it, and it's like. I will say one of the things they added. I mean, the initial release of it, aside from having a different name, you couldn't remove it, which was something you could do with that snap feature. So they added the ability to remove it, and I think everyone removed it. I'm sure they could see through telemetry. They're like, this has a 100% success rate. Everyone is removing it. And then people hated it. So they're getting rid of it. So unfortunately, they're still screwing with it. So they're like, we're looking forward to sharing more information about a future replacement experience in a later update. And it's like, why do you just not do this? Nobody needs this, like ever. Like this is the dumbest thing. Sharing in Windows is something I feel like almost no one ever uses. I use it with myself, meaning I use nearby sharing to share files from one computer to another, which is a nice way to bypass all the stupid home networking problems we have in Windows these days. But as far as like, I think we use share a lot on phones, right? Because that's a standard interface on phones, which is why Windows has it. And I also use it to, it's not the same interface, but if you use something like Instapaper or some other read it later type interface, I mean, that's sort of the same thing. Like
I think Instapaper's gone. I may be wrong.
No, it's not gone.
It's not.
No, I think you're thinking of Pocket.
Pocket's gone.
Yeah, Pocket's gone. Which is why I know this, because I was using that. Now I use Instapaper, even though Instapaper might predate Pocket. Both of those were.
It feels like both are relics of the early 2000s.
They are. But you know what?
Web 2 world, right?
Yeah. I honestly though, Instapaper is updated pretty regularly. If you use an iPhone, it's beautiful now on iPhone. Like they've done a nice job with it. I use it on desktop and mobile, but that is how I do read later. It works good, but it's sort of like a share type interface if you think about it.
Yeah, I do a Raindrop, and that has a lot of bookmarking tools have kind of read it later stuff.
But in
not
Windows,
as good as Instapaper.
Oh, I mean, I'm not that I don't know, but but whatever, it works. It's fine. It's free, But Windows, like for all the experiments of like, let's make Windows work a little bit more like a mobile platform because people are used to smartphones and everything. Like I sort of get it, but I just don't. People aren't sharing. It's not
right.
We're not doing that. That's not the activity. I'm not on like Facebook and do it like on my computer. Like I don't know. I don't feel like a lot of people aren't, but. Anyway, it's just a different thing. I'm glad they got rid of it, or are in the process of getting rid of it. So that's good. And then previous to this, I think this was this could have been Friday, late Friday probably, knowing Microsoft, but they also released 3 builds to the release preview channels, really, right? So there's 2 different builds for 24 and 25H2, but with the same features, right? Because that's the way those things work. And then there's one for 26H1, which is a month behind because that's how that thing works. And these are previews of what we're going to see in week D, which I believe, is next Tuesday. And then also in Patch Tuesday for September, which is this September 8th. And this is a big one. So we've had a couple of big months. We've had several kind of small months for feature updates this year. This is the big one. And the timing is interesting. In fact, the timing is so interesting. I'm kind of wondering if that September Patch Tuesday thing won't be a preview release so that this becomes 26H2 in October, which is the kind of normal schedule. But then again, everything's up in the air, so it's kind of hard to say. But what do I mean by this? So this is the new taskbar. This is the new start menu. This is the new Windows search, right?
Is this starting to find like a new Windows? Like this might,
like this.
Why wouldn't you just call this Windows 12, right? At some point.
Yep. I mean, look, I like that they're touching interfaces they have not touched in a while. I like that they're improving
I like the
interfaces.
confidence that says is that we're willing to poke at this code.
Yeah, right. Okay, I thought you were joking for a second.
Years.
No, right, that's what I mean. Like there are things we have not discussed, and they're just kind of small, so it's kind of a weird thing to like even talk about. But things like the run dialog, right, which no one uses, although I bet in this audience a higher percentage than the normal population does. I use it all the time. The print dialogues, right? The sub windows that appear still in settings that are still the old style Windows 8
They're
full
still the
screen.
old control panel and the MSCs. I don't know when this happened, and this says something because I feel like I did write a book about Windows, but I have to install fonts every time I bring up a new computer, and you used to. By used to, I mean for the past 30 years. Probably 20 years anyway, you could select one or more font files, right click and choose install. So the other day I'm doing this. It's not there. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I was like, well, maybe I'm missing something. So I tried I'll just try one font file. It wasn't there. I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I know that there's a fonts interface that is in the control panel. I have vague understanding that there is a fonts interface in the settings app. But I'm like, I will just go to start. You can all try this for yourself at home if you'd like. Type in fonts and see what comes up, right? And on this computer, this is probably every computer, the best match is fonts, and it says control panel. So you click on it, and you're thinking, well, the control panel is going to start. No, it does not. The settings app comes up with personalization fonts, and it says fonts control panel is being redirected here. To access the legacy interface, click this link. And that tells me this is probably going to go away, right? They have a modern interface for this. So I'm not saying I've never seen this because that would make me look like an idiot, but I am saying I've never seen this. And you can drag the files from Explorer into this thing. You drop it, right? And then it takes half an hour to install for some reason, but it works. And so this is like just a small modern UI that will not impact most people. Most people would never install a font. Why would you ever have to do this? But they're touching, like they're like screwing with it. Like that is amazing to me. There's a lot of stuff like that. So, taskbar start menu search, big.
It's a lot of news. And those are dangerous to touch because those are high profile, highly used interfaces, literally a billion people every day. You screw with those things and you make a mistake, it's bad,
Yeah.
So it's impressive they're doing that. But honestly, it's the fit and finish stuff. If you force me to say, like, what's the primary difference between like Windows and the Mac or Microsoft and Apple when it comes to user interface design or user experience design, there's a bunch of stuff I'd probably throw out there. But one of the big ones to me is that Apple has a way of throwing away old stuff and just having like a way to do things, and it's modern to the time. Microsoft does not do that. Microsoft typically has multiple ways to do things, but also has multiple layers of like almost archaeological interfaces that date back. The fonts interface in Windows and the control panel dates back literally to Windows 95. There are interfaces in Windows today that are 30 years old, and I'm wondering aloud. I'm not saying they are, but are they going to actually fix this problem? I would have bet money that they would never fix this problem, let alone tackle it at all. I know.
I don't know. It seems like Pavan kind of opened the doors to all of this, right?
Right. Yep.
I just wonder.
Well,
I wonder who he's let loose. Like who's the Kevin Gallo in this? Who's running around?
Yeah, these are the jobs or the tasks that are generally speaking thankless, right? Mm-hmm. If I were to write an article about and I say this kind of thing a lot, Microsoft fixes some feature in the new Outlook which everyone hates, or Microsoft adds some feature that was missing in the new Outlook, or whatever it is. Invariably, someone will come up and say, yeah, but what about, and then ... because there's this laundry list of stuff that's wrong with the new Outlook that everyone hates.
Sure.
And that's me. But imagine what it's like for Microsoft. So Microsoft goes out publicly on Twitter or wherever they are, and they're like, hey, we're actually serious about fixing Windows. We're doing this stuff. They make the stupid mistake of saying, if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. And they're like, oh, we have feedback.
Here comes.
And unlike Windows 10, Windows 8, the feedback doesn't go into a trash basket. It actually, someone is reading them and someone's acting on them, and they're triaging these things. And I think they're assigning them some sort of a weight or what are we going to do first or whatever. And you're like, okay, but at some point they're going to hit all of the top 10 big things or something. Yep. And of course, this is going to, it's going to fade away. And like, eventually they're going to be like, mission accomplished, we're done. And look, God love you did what you did. But they keep adding stuff. Like, I'm actually kind of blown away by this, because you can come up with very cynical reasons for why Microsoft is fixing the pain points in Windows 11 all of a sudden. Like, these things are not new complaints. We've been talking about this stuff for years, but now they're doing it.
Yeah.
But to keep doing it, right? To keep going. This is the thing. I always say this. Anyone can start a blog. Anyone can start a YouTube channel. Anyone can start a podcast. The trick is to keep doing that thing,
Yeah.
Richard's been doing whatever podcasts for over 20 years. Twit, same thing. And people start podcasts every day. They make 3 episodes and they're done. And that usually is how Microsoft does stuff with Windows. Not to be a jerk about it, but I mean, there's a lot of good intention, and then the energy fades and we're done. And I don't know what to tell you. This is good.
I get a sense that Pavan has enabled certain engineers to deal with stuff that just hasn't been on the priority list for a long time, and the priorities are sort of shifted around.
Right.
And maybe he's noticed what it's done to the team.
Yes. Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of energy there, and I also look. We're on the outside, right? So we can look at some stupid thing in Windows. But God, does anyone use this thing? Why would you put this here? Or why is this not working correctly? Whatever it is. But those guys are in Microsoft too, right? Guys and gals. I don't mean men, but like people. Those people. There are people internal to Microsoft who have been complaining about the stuff for the same amount of time for the same reasons, right? Yeah. And I think it says a lot about the state of Windows at any point in time, where you had to know there were a lot of complaints, internal and external, and no one did a thing about any of them, right? But now they're doing it. And so now those people who were complaining are like, nice, I would like to get involved. I want to see this thing be as good as it can be. Like the Scott Hanselmans of the world are involved. Yeah,
and I just wonder if he's pulled a bunch of not well-known, but obviously important engineers back into the loop. Like, remember that thing you always wanted to fix? Now's the time.
Now's your chance. Right. We're looking for people who actually know how this stuff works. We know you're out there. We know you've been scattered to the winds, but come back home. We're working on the thing. It's kind of exciting. I mean, it's nice.
Well, and again, I've certainly had the conversations where there was a lot of pressure to get the Windows team thinking you're not the center of the company anymore.
Right.
The center of the company is over here in Azure. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's finally passed. Maybe it's like, okay, now we all get it. Now, what kind of Windows did you want to make? Because the other side of not being the center of the company anymore is you're a little freer to do stuff.
That's right. That's true. Right. That's a good point. And look, Microsoft diversified. I mean, we got Server, we got Office, and Microsoft 365, and that happened. You're like, okay, but Windows is a big central part of that. And we go to the cloud, and it's like, oh boy, we're not really part of that. And now we're doing AI, and we are sort of part of that. We're more a part of that than we were of the cloud, but enough time has gone by, and I think look, Microsoft is. We're going to talk about more about their my new weekly segment on their finances. Is a far bigger and more diverse company than it's ever been, and so. Look, if the last few years of layoffs and upheavals and AI nonsense and whatever else hasn't, driven that message home, then you shouldn't be there anymore anyway. But I'm sure it has for everybody. So I think we get it. Like, I think at this point we're like, we get it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you said, you have now this freedom to do this, and then you just sort of float. And it sounds super cliche, but it's like, what would you have to do to make Windows awesome? Like, not just angering.
Right.
I don't know that they're there. I think they're just trying to reduce the anger.
And I think there are things that will happen in phases because they're complicated. For example, the start menu, right? So one of the things that came up pretty early on in this discussion about pain points, so back in whatever that was, February, is this notion that we want to move as much as we can over to the modern WinUI 3 user experience, okay? But we also want to fix the performance of key interfaces like Start and the Taskbar and widgets and whatever else. And you're like, but those things, but WinUI makes things slower. Like these two things seem like they're contrary goals. Like it doesn't seem to me that by making everything WinUI 3, you're going to make anything faster. It's But they're also doing work on WinUI 3, which has been an on again, off again thing for ever since it existed, right? Since Project Reunion became the Windows App SDK, and we kind of call it just WinUI 3 now, although that's only a component of it. But whatever.
Yeah,
it's complicated stuff. It doesn't seem like this was a priority for anybody. The people who did come in briefly to try and fix it were by themselves and could do nothing. But now it's like the Windows team is actually looking at that stuff. So
sure,
you're going to see further.
I just hope that they've got some relationship with the broader UX teams at Microsoft, with the folks that build the dev tools and things as well, because that's also been a problem where the Windows team did their own UX stuff totally isolated from everyone else.
Right.
So that, one step at a time, owning the UX problem, because when they didn't own it, it was worse.
Right.
Is progress. That there's more steps that could be taken.
Yep. So I'm
really uncomfortable with you being positive here.
Yeah. So I was just gonna. I was gonna say,
who is this guy?
If you think it's weird for you, imagine how weird it is for me.
Yeah.
And not because I want to be super clear about this. Well, in the sense that we all want to present ourselves in the best possible light. I mean, I don't. No, I do. Never mind. I was going to say I don't go negative immediately. Well, because everything is usually so crappy, it's the right way to approach something. In this case, like this is. I can't. Well, let me think. No, there have been times in Windows 10 was a nice return to form after Windows 8. Like Windows 7 was a nice return to form after Vista, which was after Longhorn, right? Windows 2000 was excellent. There were times where it was like, oh, this is nice, But there were also long periods of time, like the whole Vista thing or the Windows 8 thing, obviously. And then Windows 11 to us, well, not to a small. In some ways, the problems in Windows 11, UX stuff is like UX stuff, but to me, the bigger problems are like the enshirtification stuff, and that's serious. I mean, that stuff's serious because Microsoft is selling things and trying to make money in different ways or whatever. So that kind of stuff is gross. But it's been like that for so long. it's weird. It's like I'm still like I'm dreaming, right? Like I'm going to wake up and be like, oh no, I invented this in my brain. This is not happening. This is how I cope with things. But no, it's happening. Like it's and it's look. I made this point twice back at the original announcement, and then when Pavan did his probably July update, where it's like, hey, let's not forget. They're not actually addressing, I'm going to say 7 of the 8 like top level and certification things in Windows 11 that I pointed out.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean this isn't a positive step forward, right? So like you want to just kind of have that balance. But they're also now starting to exceed in some ways what they said they were going to do, if that makes sense. Like they're continuing, like the work continues because people are providing feedback. They're actually listening, which is astonishing. And this is good news. Like I don't know. Right? This is what good news looks like. I'm not used to it. I think like this is.
He's so puzzled.
It's weird.
So
like like what's happening? I feel squishy
like
inside.
When a baby
it's like,
eats a lemon. It's
yeah. It's like I what is this feeling?
What?
It was like I don't remember the word she used. I was talking about feeling good about someone else to a friend, and she said, "Yeah, that's called." It wasn't empathy, but it was a word like that, and I was like, "I've never felt this before." Like I was like, I feel good for someone else. Yeah. It's like the opposite of Schadenfreude. Like, anyway, it's good. So it's just I like seeing it.
Let us pause, if you
Indeed.
gentlemen don't mind, to hear a word from our sponsor. We've got the one. We should really solve.
Well, beat it to death. I need to go get a drink.
We'll be back with more Windows Weekly. We're going to talk hardware in just a little bit. Is IFA coming up again? I can't believe.
September 1, 2, somewhere in there.
My life is just. I know there's going to be a new iPhone in like 2.5 weeks.
Yep.
My life is going. Actually, it's exactly 3 weeks from today. We think it's just going. It's like faster and faster.
It might just be you.
I think it's my age. As you get older, as
this is the bird beating heart thing. Like you really feel it. I don't know. I feel it too.
Christmas comes like every other day now.
There's too many Christmases. I didn't think you'd have too much of it.
IFA is Christmas for telecom hardware geeks.
Yeah.
Plus, you get to go to, is it Berlin?
Berlin, yeah, which I love.
Are you going to go?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I love Berlin.
All right. We'll talk about that and more in just a bit. You're watching Windows Weekly. Hello, you winners. Our show today brought to you by Scribe. No matter how well a process is documented or taught, someone will eventually find a faster, better way to do it. Scribe helps capture those improvements so that knowledge doesn't walk out the door when they do. And that's what today's sponsor, Scribe, does best. Scribe is a workflow AI platform trusted by 94% of the Fortune 500. You just do the process as you normally would, and Scribe captures it in real time and turns it into documentation automatically. No manual writing, no manual screenshots, no starting from scratch every time someone new joins the team. Scribe automatically redacts sensitive information, names, account numbers, emails, and as an admin, you can enforce this across your entire team. Feel confident nothing slips through the cracks. Anyone following this process can launch real-time on-screen guidance the moment the Scribe is created, so critical processes get done right every time. And Scribe doesn't just document your workflow. Its AI suggests ways to improve it by identifying unnecessary steps and opportunities to simplify or automate the process. It's not just capturing how work gets done, it's helping you do it better. To see what Scribe could look like for your org, head to scribe.how/Windows and mention Windows Weekly for your first month of Scribe Capture free on select plans. That's scribe.how/Windows. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. So one of the things we're going to see at IFA is a new Snapdragon, yes?
That's my guess. Because, Qualcomm announced the Snapdragon C June, probably back a couple of months ago, as a response to the MacBook Neo and the rising cost of laptops and components. And
so this is not a high end. This is not the elite.
This is a $300. Yeah. And when you look at, so what they did this past week was release more information about the specifications of this chipset. And if you go through it, I mean, the thing that sticks out to me is that it looks like it looks more like device than PC. And so what I mean by that is like slower RAM. Yeah. Okay. Wi-Fi 6, not 7. But and one external display, right? At full HD with any, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. 4K, 60 frames a second. But USB 3.1, which is 5 gigabits per second, not 40, like we see on, Thunderbolt 4, USB 4. And what's it called? The type of storage you see in like a phone, like not an SSD. What the hell is it called? UFS. I'm sorry, UFS storage. So it supports UFS 3.1, which is actually pretty fast, and 2.2 storage, not SSD, right? So these are all things aimed at keeping the cost down, right? That's the point of this. This is supposed to go into a computer that costs about $300. Historically, by which I mean forever, there has never been such thing as a sub $500 computer that was worth a damn. Unfortunately, with the rising component prices now, that is edged up. I would make the argument in the PC space, like you got to spend at least $1,000 basically to get something, unless it's on sale or the random. There was that idea, Pat, I pointed out a couple of months ago. Every once in a while, to be like this one computer where it's like, okay, this thing's $800, $900. It's actually really good. But this is the space that's typically been dominated is a strong term, served by like what we used to call Pentium Celeron type chips, right?
Right. Or Atom.
Yeah, exactly. Which is garbage, right? So, we'll see. I do feel like if anyone can get this right, it might be Qualcomm because, the Snapdragon X2, XX2 stuff is awesome. And maybe there's a version of this, one thing I found consistently across both generations of Snapdragon X is that even the very lowest end chipset, right, is awesome. Like I still, one of my favorite laptops still is that HP OmniBook 5 from last summer, which at that time you could get for like $600. It's like probably $800 or $850 today. But the lowest end first gen Snapdragon chip, like not Snapdragon, it wasn't even called, no, I'm sorry, it was called X. So they used to have like X Plus and X Elite, but this was just X, it's like half a core, whatever. But no, it's awesome. Like that's an awesome computer. And it's, fascinating when something low end can work well. So we'll see. But so they released some more specs. They did not talk about IFA, but my guess is given the timing, this would be when computer makers would want to announce these products. Now, back to school is occurring as we speak, right? And in some ways you could argue it's winding down. So it's somewhat curious to me that this couldn't happen more quickly, but I can't believe they're going to wait beyond IFA for this, right? Like you want to get the stuff out there. So we'll see. We'll see. I think this, the inherent kind of efficiency, reliability, blah, 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 whatever that they've done on Snapdragon is going to help here, where the Intel stuff was just always coming from the wrong place. And, they were just never going to serve this market correctly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. There is that.
Are we due for a new high end, like an Elite 3 or whatever?
No. The X2 stuff just started rolling out.
Oh,
it wasn't quite mid-year, right. But it was in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, that doesn't mean they couldn't announce, more X2 chips of some kinds. But I've never heard anything about that, so I'm not really sure what to say there.
We're pretty happy with this, though, right? I feel like Apple is moving rapidly. They do a new M series every year.
Yeah, but this year they're dropping all the variants, right? They're going to do like a base M6.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to me as somebody who uses AI. I mean, the problem
Here we
is
go.
you're not going to get a name
as somebody who uses AI.
As somebody who kind of likes it.
If I would never not use AI, but if I were to do that,
well,
I would recommend.
The reasoning I hear is that the M7, because they saw all the demand for these Macs for local AI, the M7 is going to be highly optimized for running AI.
Right.
So they thought, well, we'll put out a couple of things with M6, but let's not spend a lot of energy on it.
It's crazy because honestly, you can make the argument that M whatever, right? If you
I'm
have a
using an
Mac
M4
Mini-
Pro, and I happen to have stupidly a year ago bought a 64 gig Mac Mini.
Well, of course.
Thank
You know what
God.
though? But I think that's gonna
Only?
have legs. Like the M1 MacBook Air and Pro they're still going strong. Like the I feel if you have like an M2, M3 or whatever Mac Mini, those things are probably great for AI, right? So they're in a good place. I mean, they can kind of afford to do this. I think this is an area where the
I think
PC
it's
actually has
tricky
to
to
keep up.
optimize when things are changing so quickly. Like that's a big commit on the hardware side.
You're shooting way ahead of the puck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who
Good
knows
luck
what
with
next
that
year's
one.
going to bring? Yeah.
Well, but Apple. So I mean, look.
I mean, last time I looked, Wayne Gretzky just went off the board, right? Tim Cook just took a nap. So I hope the
you
new
never-
guy's got a good aim.
Never mention hockey when there's a Canadian in the house.
I was like, so I just experienced what I think my wife experiences when I talk about technology because I have no idea what you just said. And like,
Wayne Gretzky.
I heard
is
Wayne
famously
Gretzky.
quoted as saying,
No, I got
where
that.
where the puck's going to be.
no, I know that I do know.
Okay.
But then whatever you just said though, I was like, what? Did something happen to Wayne Gretzky? I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
Nevertheless, I think the point is this AI stuff is moving more quickly than any technology we've ever seen. And
Sure.
so maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like, what does optimized hardware
the
look
Kinect
like?
on the Xbox is probably the only comparable technology that's grown as fast. And
I mean,
Boy, it
Okay.
fizzled fast, didn't it? Boy,
I don't think AI is going to fizzle quite as fast as Xbox.
it's like when you do a firework and it's briefly excellent, then it goes, it just falls apart. Like, yeah, you're like, oh,
There are people who hope
matters.
that will happen to AI as well.
does
Yeah. So, but I also see Apple as seeing, they missed enterprise completely, right?
Yep.
Well, they
had
tried a couple of times, but it's not in their nature. They also
yeah.
recognized who they were.
right, and then they chase the creator, the
as
professional creator,
they should,
But
They
that
have his-
kind of that only sold like a few
okay.
dozen max.
No, you know what it is. There is something to this because Apple, because they have had so many generations of mobile chips, because they were very early on.
Yeah.
Google did the same thing. Google just doesn't have a full desktop OS thing yet, right? They're working on that sort of, but because of this, they recognized early on, we have a phone where battery life is paramount. We want to do something related to computational photography, maybe, or whatever it might be. And they've been doing this for years. So that when they bring this over to the desktop, that stuff's just there. So I feel like they weren't optimizing for the use cases people are using today for AI on Mac Minis or whatever they're using. But the reason people are using those things is because that work was done. And those things in that way are ahead in ways that I don't think we understand in the PC space because this has just never been a priority. You're like, we're trying to jam MPUs down people's throats now and ignoring the GPUs that people already have, which, by the way, is insanity. And
I bought a 3090 to replace an RTX 3070, and I can run the latest Quen that everybody's raving about.
yeah, but you know what you
And
can
that's
do?
the VRAM difference, I imagine, is the big thing.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
can't
it
use
went from 10
Co-Creator and
gigabytes
Paint
of
to make a
VRAM.
picture of a turtle. So, I don't know what you're talking about, Leo, but like, no, it's like stupid how we've constrained the Windows in this way, right? Like we have these features in Copilot Plus PCs that could easily be run.
It really has flipped because the Mac was the laggard in the business space and
Yeah.
all this stuff. You never got any of this stuff
Right.
ever. And then all of a sudden now Windows is the laggard when it comes to AI. And I think
I tell you that the latest SM120 drivers for my 5080, I did a transcript of a 30-minute podcast in 30 seconds.
it's amazing, huh?
So I can explain.
astonishing.
I can
Are you
explain
using
what you just
Whisper?
said.
What are you using for the model?
That was the faster whisper, yeah.
Yeah, I use Whisper Large now. It I just by accident said something in Chinese and it translated it. I thought, wow, that's kind of unusual. Then I
God.
tried
So-
French. It translated that.
You've
So
brought
it's
up so
very
many
good.
things in my brains. So, Leo, what you just said is explainable, right? So, Apple was never able to get into the enterprise explicitly. And they've had some success there just by virtue of the fact that C-level people are like, look, I want a MacBook, make it work.
Yeah. At the
Or whatever,
C-
or an
at the
iPhone
C-level,
or an
sure.
iPad, whatever it is, right? So
An
that's
iPhone has been a wedge. You're absolutely right. BYOD
But-
changed things a
The
little.
But okay,
iPad,
but Microsoft, meanwhile, this is Microsoft and Intel are both explained by the fact that the big part of this market, which is enterprise, is slow moving and resistant to change. They want things that they know and understand. And they, you throw like a Snapdragon something at them, you throw something with an NPU at them, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. This is not anything we know about. So the thing that made Apple unsuccessful in the enterprise helped them to be successful in this new thing, because it's the status quo that we have in the PC space is what is holding back AI in the PC space.
That's almost canon in the business world. That I often think about cell phones because the United States invented cell phones. We had a lot of legacy technology, and so
that's your whole electrical grid.
Yeah, we were behind countries that had no landlines, no nothing. Yeah. And now cell phones are everywhere, and it's a dominant technology there. So, we just got to SMS 10 years after everybody else. This was years ago. But
I had to pause in this because we went away, but I had gotten, like, Google has a new smart speaker, right? So it's Gemini now instead of Google Assistant or whatever, right? And the primary difference here being you have to actually pay to get all the good stuff, and B, you can have a conversation with it, which you have to pay for. But whatever. So it's a conversational model, not just ask a question, get an answer kind of thing. Okay, fine. I read, I don't know if this is the New York Times. It might have been the Wirecutter, which is part of the New York Times, or it might have been somewhere else. But there was this excellent, it was like, this thing sucks. And it was like, it said, I asked a question. It had no idea what I was talking. It kept getting things wrong. I would correct it. It wouldn't listen to me. And then she's like, I don't really like the third instance of this. She's like, no, listen to me. It's this. Yelling. And then it's just started talking in Chinese. she's like, I give up. She's like, I'm done. Like, I'm out. Like, I just, nope.
That's just hysterical.
Unbelievable. It was the most excellent thing I've ever read, like from a tech review kind of thing. Just started talking Chinese. You're like, I give up. I guess we're not talking anymore. Like,
how?
You're like, what the hell is happening? Yeah, like, it's just beautiful. I love that. So I wish I could remember where it was, but it was really funny.
Very funny.
It's worth reading if you could find it.
It sounds like either Victoria's Song or Jennifer Patterson Tui, both of them.
It was a woman, and that shouldn't help you find it, but it was a woman. I did see that. It was just excellent. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah. Speaking of Google.
Yes.
Jeff Jarvis is going to get just so excited later today when you tell him
okay.
This is good news.
I mean, I'm interested. I mean, I guess the whole Google, the Chromebook thing has always been vaguely fascinating to me. It never took off, I think, with individuals and certainly not with businesses. Like, I kind of thought it might. They did that Chromebook Plus, I think it's called. Yeah, Plus a couple of years ago. I'm like, okay, interesting. It's still, it's kind of like the Copilot Plus PC of that space. It's just like whatever. So now they're rebranding Chromebooks as PixelBooks or Google Books. Sorry. We're hoping for a PixelBook, but, and they're having, I have not been invited to this, but I guess sometime in mid-September in New York City, they're going to have an event with the press. So Laurent, the guy who writes news for me, wrote this thing up. I got an email from their PR department that was like, just to be clear, we're not announcing anything on that day. That's the day. So in other words, what they're having is like a reviewers workshop that day.
Right.
And then I guess they'll be able to write about it in a week or two after that, whenever. And I'm like, okay. She's like, really appreciate it if you could like fix that. I was like, look, you didn't invite us to this event. I don't know what you wanted us to get out of this. It's like, whatever. Yeah. But anyway, this is not the day of a Google Book public announcement. It's the day that media is going to get to see probably the new Chromebooks from whatever the companies are, like Asus, Acer, Lenovo, HP, whatever, Dell, I'm sure is in there. And maybe learn more about the platform, right? We know it's basically desktop Android, right? So, I'm interested. I mean, the idea of a simple-ish mobile platform kind of graduating up to desktop class to some degree is always sort of interesting. So we'll see if they can pull that one off. I don't know.
Are you going to go?
No, I wasn't invited. So I don't like to ask.
Who is a PixelBook reviewer in these?
Yeah, I don't know.
Times.
Well, I mean, all the Google, like the 9 to 5 Google guys, or Android Authority, or like whatever those sites are. Probably.
Note they say designed for Gemini Intelligence. It's very much an AI book.
Yeah. So
I wonder if it'll speak Chinese.
I guess I didn't talk about. I don't have the Pixel thing in the news in the notes rather. But so I ordered a Pixel 10 Pro. 11,
Oh, you have the new one.
Yeah, so that
10
arrived
or the
today.
11?
11, sorry.
11. Yeah.
So that arrived today.
That
It was
fast.
supposed to arrive tomorrow, which would have been really bad timing because we're going away tomorrow. But anyway, it arrived today. Nice. I will say, in writing that up a little bit, just like first impressions kind of thing, I went to the Google Store website to kind of, because you can compare year over year, like the 11 with the 10, and it's a sea of the same specs, right? Like most of it's the same, but there are these kind of subtle differences. One of the differences, I swear to God, it says the Pixel 10 series came with Android 16 and Gemini, and the Pixel 11 series comes with Android 17 and Gemini Intelligence. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. Like whatever. But yeah, I don't know yet about, I can't say much about almost anything, honestly, but there's that highlight feature, which was originally called Pixel Glow, where it's just other companies have done this. You have like an LED on the back and it pulses different colors for things. So if you can assign colors to your contacts, and if one of them sends you a text message, like if my daughter did her color might be purple or whatever, and it would glow purple. I'm like, oh, Kelly or someone purple is, messaging me. It might make me want to pick that thing up and see what it is. And then I think the other thing it does, what's the other one? Oh, if you're talking to Gemini, it will do like a pulsating color thing, like the Gemini animation. And that's a reason to spend $1,100 right there. I don't know why you need to know anything else about this phone. But there are things that are going to come to other Pixels, right? No doubt. They're not talking about that. They're trying to sell devices. But there's a bunch of new camera app features, which I think are really cool. The best one, and I sometime today, if I can, I'm going to run out of time, but I've already written it. But there's a thing in there called Camera Looks, which is Google's version of photographic styles on the iPhone. If you've ever used photographic styles, you know that this thing is a crime against humanity and that The Hague is calling and they have some questions. And it's a horrible, horrible interface. It requires you to pick a kind of a color-based style, but then you use this weird grid to precisely position with your finger, which is the worst way to do anything precise on a grid, the plus and minus whatever values this thing is. And then if you don't set it up right, and to set it up right, you actually have to leave the camera and go into settings and find the camera app settings that are in settings, not in the camera app, and tell it to remember the settings between sessions, because if you don't, you could change that thing by mistake and you just blew away everything. I've done this many times. And I was just, who was telling me about this? My brother-in-law. Got an iPhone, and he's like, what the? He goes, why do all of my photos look washed out? And I said, oh, you screwed with that setting. And he's like, no, there's no way. But you do. It's so easy to screw it up. And if you don't have the, save my setting as it was originally set, it will just stay wherever you mess it up, it will just stay messed up. It is the dumbest UI ever invented. It's horrible. And I've used an Apple Watch, so there's a high bar on horrible Apple UIs. But this is Google's version, and Google's version, I swear to God, it's just awesome. It's like you get a menu, you have 4 or 5 top level styles. One of them is the one I'm using is called Vanilla, which sounds like a weird name, but the top level photographic style I use on iPhone is called Amber, and it's kind of the same thing. And then on the fly, you can just make changes to it if you want or not, and it will remember it, and it's in the app. You don't have to go somewhere else to set it, and it's just simple. It's just this. And so Google, not world renowned for user experiences or whatever, and Apple, who likes to pat itself on the back for everything it does, somehow Google has destroyed the iPhone from a user interface perspective. I still need to, obviously Pixels take awesome photos, but I need to take more photos with this. But I think people are focusing a little too much on the wrong thing here, which is that we have all these awesome computational photography features, right? They're awesome. It's the reason why you can pick up a Pixel with these tiny sensors and take a picture. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. But people are like, oh, but it looks like a smartphone photo. It's maybe it's a little too vibrant. Maybe it's a little too contrasty. Maybe it's this, that, whatever it is. And so one of the settings in here is just called, I think it's called natural is the one.
Crappy.
Well, it's like it detunes,
crap photography.
It turns down the processing a little bit, right? So it's a little duller. It's not as dull as a stock iPhone photo, in the sense that like Pixel has always kind of been in the middle between like iPhone and Samsung, like Samsung's super overtly vibrant, bright, whatever. But now you can kind of change these things on the fly. And I have to say, I get it. Like I get it, a decade plus of computational photography, and now they're turning the dials down or letting you do that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But also, Pixels have always taken great photos. The fact that like this will make this more interesting to people who may otherwise have been like, yeah, I don't, I use an iPhone because it takes terrible photos and I can take raw shots and make it look like however I want it to look or whatever. Anyway, this is an awesome user interface. Like I'm sorry, awesome is so stupid. It's a simple interface. It's just that the thing on iPhone is so bad. Like it's so incredibly stupid. That just by making something normal, like I want to celebrate it because it's just like calling it awesome is stupid. It's just the way it should look. Like it's simple. Anyway, they've done a good job with that. So that's all I have to say so far. But the phone is, it's basically identical. It's
that's really the number one difference. I think is the photography thing.
I think so too. Yeah, it's software stuff, and that's the thing. So if you have a 10, especially, or a 9, probably, and then depending, we'll see. But Pixel every quarter puts out Pixel drops, and invariably a lot of those new features are things that debuted in the new phones a month or two ago, but now are coming to other devices, right, that are already in the market. So there's no way that other Pixels are not going to get this feature. They don't want to say that now. Like I said, they're trying to sell phones, but like in December, if not in December, then in March, these things will all be on other Pixels, like less new Pixels than 11. But anyway, so that's good. That's nice.
Yeah.
But the most important news of the week, and I would like to formally request that we rename the podcast to Amiga Weekly.
Okay, deal. He's going to his roots, kids. Pretty soon it'll be all about Delphi. It's going to be fun.
It's weekly with an A. Most people probably have heard, Commodore's back, right? So some YouTube guy was like, this brand has been sitting there doing nothing. Is there any way we could get this thing back? Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, it's like we freaking did it. Like, so anyway, the Commodore's the thing again, right? So, but Commodore, the new company, so to speak, is, they own all the trademarks and IP and all that kind of stuff. And they're putting out kind of modern versions of like legacy 8-bit computers, right? So like a C64 Ultimate, there's a C64C Ultimate now. I would imagine at one point we're going to see a 128, whatever. Okay, that's fine. But those are not like viable computers today. Obviously they're like 45 years old. But fun. It's a whole enthusiast nostalgia thing there, and there's fun games and all that stuff. I get it. But like, whatever. Like I saw that and I was like, okay, I'm super excited this is happening. Absolutely not buying one of these things. I just don't need this kind of thing. But now there's been there was Commodore and Amiga, right? So when Commodore went out of business, the Amiga IP, because that was really valuable at that time, changed hands multiple times, right? With Gateway, I forget, SCOM, is that the right name? I think SCOM was one of the companies. It's gone through different things. So it's been kind of scattered to the wind. So there were companies like Cloantu, Hyperion, Retro Games, and then some company that was called Amiga something, at different times. Like there was an Amiga, I think it was LTD, Amiga Corp at one point, it's Corp again, whatever. So it was like a guy from Cloantu, and Cloantu is the company that makes Amiga Forever and C64 Forever, right? These are the emulator packages for Windows, Mac, I think Linux too. That company actually had rights to all the ROMs for Commodore and Amiga computers somehow. Like that, like this stuff was just spread around. Hyperion was developing new versions of Amiga OS software that would run on PowerPC computers, right? Which are themselves like out of date now. The original Amigas were 68K, like Motorola-based computers. So there's a company called Amiga, that's corporation, run by a guy from Cloantu, who has been in legal talks with all these companies, and now they have all of the IP and all of the trademarks, and they're licensing the name to appropriate things going forward. And in fact, they're the company that's licensing the Commodore ROMs to Commodore so they can make the C64 Extreme or whatever it's called, Ultimate, whatever, which is kind of interesting, right? But they are going to consolidate all this software, and they're going to keep making new versions of Amiga OS that will run on legacy 68K Amigas, PowerPC Amigas, and then future Amigas, right? And including this thing that Retro Games announced back, actually it was late last year at the time, and still it's called the A1200. So it's an Amiga 1200 in the original case, but emulator interior, right? Like it's probably like a Raspberry Pi or something. I'm not really sure, but and I found out about this in February and immediately pre-ordered it. It was supposed to come out in June, right? So June came and went, didn't hear anything. And I'm like, what's going on with this? And I checked the site at one point. It was like, it's going to be coming out in December. And I'm like, December? I'm like, okay. So like, this is kind of screwy, but it was a couple $100. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. It turns out this is why. So these companies were all doing this kind of legal entanglement thing and sorting it out, and they have. So now it's all set. There was an Amiga event in Germany this month where this guy and some of the other people from the company show up. They have revised the logo and the brand, the branding stuff, and talking about all this stuff, like all the stuff they're doing. And he was saying that this Amiga 1200 that's coming out from Retro Games is coming out. It'll be out by the end of the year. But now it's going to be like an actual Amiga. It's going to boot into Amiga OS. It's going to have, you'll be able to, it's not just like an emulator. It's like, this is now going to be like an actual computer. And it's like, okay, like this, it's pretty cool. So we'll see. I don't think Amiga is going to take over the world.
It's just a nostalgia play, right? I mean,
well, it is, and yes, it is. But so the one thing Commodore is doing semi-right, the new Commodore, I disagree with some of the details. Like they're coming up with like a flip phone. It's like, guys, like whatever. But there's a nostalgia play, right? I mean, that's obvious. There's nostalgia is a big part of it. Remember when life was simpler? It was so simple you couldn't get online. Well, unless you
scan lines,
yeah,
and interlace displays,
right? Exactly. Yeah, right. So, and we're like, yeah, we do, and we love those days because we didn't have families or wives, and we didn't have responsibilities, and that was way better back then. So there's a positive kind of association with the past, right? But the new Commodore is talking about like this is as a sort of way forward that technology doesn't have to be about surveillance and big tech and complicated interfaces and things. It's like you could have this simpler kind of thing going on. And it's like, oh, I like the message. I mean, I think the Commodore stuff is a little too simple maybe, but interesting. The Amiga stuff, though, it's like, well, okay. I mean, like, there have been like attempts to do like kind of Linux-based Amiga, if you will, like Amiga UIs and things, and it's like a thing that looked and worked like an Amiga, but was modern and maybe could run whatever it is, PC software, Linux software, whatever it might be. In addition to that old stuff, is like, okay, that I could kind of wrap my head around. So, I didn't go to Germany for the Amiga event, whatever, that was probably attended by 300 people or something. But I love that they're doing this, and this to me is more interesting than Commodore, frankly. I mean, I love that Commodore is a thing, but and I had a Commodore 64, I had a Commodore 64C. I was heavily involved in that world at that time. I loved it, but I had a rattle and I lived in a little cage when I was a baby. I don't really miss that either. So it's like, at some point there's a line where it's like, well, maybe it's too far in the past. I don't know. I'm glad this happened. So anyway, I'm excited about the Amiga thing. We'll see what happens.
I have somewhere, Jerry Ellison was a contract employee who made a joystick that held the whole Commodore C64 ROM in it.
Oh, jeez.
What the point of it was, you'd hook it up to a TV and it would have the games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. Right.
But she built in a back door, probably up, down, left, right button.
Nice.
But I think it was actually. But she built in a back door that would unlock the entire Commodore ROM. And so you'd get the Commodore prompt and the basic prompt, and suddenly you have a Commodore computer in this joystick. So
you can, for years, like you could buy Amiga forever or buy C64 forever. You get the ROMs, right? It's legal. These are the real ROMs. Like and then you can find the games and you can play them on that thing. This is, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I built a Raspberry Pi Amiga for a friend for Christmas. So it looks like a little Amiga 500. It's like this big, so the case looks like an Amiga 500, but it's just a Raspberry Pi with a little SD card in it. And it has, boots into a menu, and you can choose different OS versions. And it has a menu of all the, it's all the games he remembers playing when he was, much younger.
Right.
And That's nothing, that's kind of cool. The joystick is bigger than the, than the little computer.
Well, that's the funny thing is that the joystick that Jerry Ellison designed is, it's this,
right.
But it's a whole Commodore in there.
I think that
the
latest product that the new Commodore announced actually is a joystick, and it's not one of those crap, like, if you ever bought that original CX100 or whatever,
they're like the Atari joystick.
You just snap it off, No, so this one is like rock. It's like it's a piece of titanium, like it's never,
nice. Nice.
You could stand on it and it would be fine. But that's honestly the thing Commodore always needed was like a joystick that didn't
Are
break
there
the
joystick controllers for Xbox, like modern or is the joystick
no?
just
I mean, no, you can't. No, because by the time we get to PlayStation, I'm not even sure this was the beginning of it, but certainly by PlayStation, you get the D-pads and you get the thumbsticks,
you have
right?
Basically,
there were one or two thumbsticks. Like I remember the
thumbsticks.
Yep. Yeah, so we went, like, remember the original Nintendo was basically an Atari joystick, but it was a game pad.
Right.
And then the Sega
that was it was really Evolution.
Right. And then the
I'm going to have my AI
do
the evolution of games and have it go. Like
because the controller, the Sega Master System had this tiny, thin little gamepad thing. And then the Genesis had the bigger one, and I don't remember exactly the progression here, but
so you really do have a joystick and these are Hall effects, I think. So they're even better than a joystick. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right. I suppose you could use a thumbstick as the joystick, right? And then the buttons are there.
Yeah, you don't really need it.
But in a proper controller, you've got your thumbs on two different D sticks, and you've got your several fingers in action, right? Clicking different things. So.
Right. I mean, back, in the early days,
the
you
old
would just
joystick thing. It takes up too much.
You only get one button on a joystick four. And I think the old ones only had four, up, down, left, right. I don't think you had anything else.
Yeah, they were super simple. Well, because that's what in the arcade, you'd have a kid jamming on the thing. Those things were rock solid. Those would last forever.
Well, they were blocks of steel. They were tough as
and they were four direction, initially.
I remember playing
those things,
Tank.
Still work fine today, right?
But they had tank steerers. Oh well. Anyway, enough nostalgia. Sorry.
No, I started.
It's fun.
So,
you young people, you don't know. You're watching Windows Weekly. That's Paul Thurrott, the old guy, in the middle. No. I'm a lot older than he is. And Mr. Richard Campbell on the right. And we are he's in the boathouse. He's in the boathouse now.
In the boathouse.
In the boathouse now. And we are talking about Microsoft. And now, Lenovo. My favorite laptop is a Lenovo X1 Carbon. I just love it.
I love Lenovo. They make great products. I could be wrong, but this is the first time I noticed them doing any kind of financial shenanigan thing. And in this era, I'm starting to see this a lot, right? I mean, obviously,
financial
with Microsoft,
shenanigans season.
Yeah.
Well, if other people are doing it, you're going to say, "Well, I got to do it too."
Mm-hmm. So I will say, in the spectrum of financial shenanigans, there are extremes, and they're not at an extreme. Like this is like what I would call a Spotify level financial shenanigans, not we're hiding tens to hundreds of billions of dollars in spending because we don't want you to know how bad it is, like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, et cetera, are doing. So it's not like that. But I pointed out a few quarters ago, and they did it again this past quarter, Spotify, which has always been very transparent in their earnings, which is the only thing I ever respected about this company, started to mix and match different types of profit and earnings numbers. So there's the GAAP numbers, which are generally accepted accounting principle, which they would do for revenues, which they have to. But then they would say that, well, we had an operating profit of, yada, yada. I'm like, well, but I'm sorry, operating profit? What does that mean? It's like, oh, if we don't factor in the cost of doing business, we were profitable. Yeah, but you have to factor in the cost of doing business. That's what a profit is. And they did it.
If we didn't pay anybody, we made lots of money.
Right. Like if I didn't have to pay rent or whatever, I'd be rich. Yeah. No, we all would be. But we have bills, and it's like, what are you talking about? But I saw this and I was like, wait, what? So that kind of threw me a little bit. And that's what Lenovo's doing, right? So Lenovo, and you see headline, like I started, people write about it and they just parrot what Lenovo says, because why would Lenovo lie? So Lenovo reported revenues of $26.9 billion. Awesome. Adjusted net income of $1.1 billion. And not only does it, they've never used this term before, right? But not only does it say adjusted net income, but then they bragged that was the first time we had a $1 billion quarter. I'm like,
Because we finally found a way to fudge a number.
so what is adjusted net income? Well, it's not net income. Net income is profit. And they didn't have a profit. They swung to a loss. So using generally accepted accounting principles buried in their numbers, they lost $609 million. However,
Wow.
the reason they did was because of a non-recurring one-time fair value loss to the revaluation of financial warrants that cost them, well, $1.6 billion apparently. So, okay, yes, look, things happen, but the money in, money out is this is the game, and I'm sorry, but
take these one-time losses.
Yeah, I don't mind reporting both. They didn't report the $609 million loss. I mean, they did. It's in the numbers. It's in the spreadsheet, but it's nowhere in their announcement.
Yeah, it's perfectly reasonable to say, hey, we had a one-time cost of $1.6 billion.
If it wasn't for this, we would have
made.
There you go. There you go.
That's a little more honest.
Yep.
That's a lot more honest.
Right. So here, my guess is, and I'm not, again, like I'm the canary in the coal mine here for some reason. I'm not a financial person. I'm not an accountant. I was not trained in any of this, but I just, whatever, I write about this every quarter. So what I've seen is companies will report side by side GAAP and non-GAAP numbers for whatever they're calling profit, like net income typically, or revenues, right? And they do that because, yes, there are currency fluctuations, for example. So maybe the US dollar is trading a little high or low against whatever other currency, and they have customers in those other locales, and they sell worldwide. All these companies are ginormous international conglomerates. And if it wasn't for that, we would have made this other number, which is a non-GAAP number, which is not what you're legally required to report in any country on earth, by the way.
If we could just make up numbers, we'd say this.
Right. But the thing is, those things are usually kind of close. So I'll just make up numbers. So say in this case, like forget the one-time thing that Lenovo had, but maybe Lenovo normally would have been like, all right, look, we made $1 billion in profit, net income, on $27 billion in revenues. Our non-GAAP terms, those are $1.2 billion in profits, net income, and $29 billion in revenues. So like, okay, they're close. I think the problem this time is that this is a $1.6 billion difference, right? 1.7. So a net income of $1.1 billion plus a profit is way better. It's not like slightly off. It's way better than a $609 million loss. You know what I mean? Yeah. So instead of just providing those things, they just used a GAAP number for revenue and a non-GAAP number for what they're calling it profit, like net income. And ding, 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 ding. Nope, you can't do that. Yeah. I mean, you can. No one's calling them on it. They're a Chinese company too. Who cares? Chinese company that reports their earnings in US dollars, by the way. But okay, that's fine. Look, I like Lenovo. I mean, I reviewed a lot of their products, et cetera, but like, and then the other thing going on here, just because, and the reason I'm mentioning this in the first place is they sell PCs, right? But like Dell, and unlike HP, who remember has split from their cloud infrastructure company, right? So there's an HPE now and an HP. So HP, the PC maker, literally makes PCs and printers. That's their whole thing. They don't do any of this other stuff. Dell and now Lenovo, which is actually kind of a newish thing for Lenovo, are doing like data center things, AI data center things. Like that's where all their growth is coming from. In Dell's case, I think it's where most of their money's coming from too. I mean, Dell's PC business today is still bigger than, their data center stuff or whatever.
Sure.
But the data center stuff is going through the roof because that's, the crazy market we're in right now.
Yeah. Because they're coming from almost nowhere, their growth is going to look spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah. And Wall Street loves this. Like Wall Street loves big growth, Lenovo's stock price has increased over 20% this year because they've done this twice. There's been 2 quarters where like, oh my God, the AI stuff's going gangbusters. The AI stuff today is half what their PC business is. That's the only way to say it. But the growth is astronomical, right? Extraordinary was how they described it. And the PC thing is, actually the PC business went up pretty well. Lenovo has done a good job. And look, Lenovo, honestly, the PC business is kind of awesome because, low margin typically for most companies. The PC market is fairly flat, but they can switch to like a higher mix of premium products, and those do well. They still have good margins, et cetera. So they had really good growth in that part of the business. Like they actually sold, in revenues, they sold 2% fewer computers this quarter than they did in the year ago quarter, but they expanded their market share lead over HP by I have 4.9 percentage points. They're like 1/4 of the entire PC market, right? So they sold fewer computers, they made more money, and they extended their lead in market share, which is unit sales, meaning the other computer makers' sales fell harder than theirs did, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing great. I mean, given the, like the market is terrible, it's not their fault, but they're doing great, and they have this side.
Why
they have a side gig.
the number then?
Because. Right. I personally, I think this is inexcusable. There are two, but I'll give you two reasons. One, everyone's doing it, and there have been no repercussions, none.
Right.
Right. I'm coming at this from I'm going to call it an almost 2-decade. Let me think about that. At least 15-year period where I've watched Microsoft slowly and then more in accelerating in recent years be ever less transparent and reporting where the money comes from and where it's going, and it's astonishing.
Shittification of corporate reporting.
100%. So no one is calling them on their nonsense, and they see this. Look, they're a big company. They're like, we can do this, And I think the other one was just the allure of, Lenovo typically, like, you got to remember, this has historically been just a PC business, right? They're starting to get into these data center things, so the mix is shifting. But this is historically and literally forever has been a low margin business, right? So you make $27 billion, but you only made a profit if, let's say this never happened, so maybe they made $1 billion. Like, it's not they didn't make 14. Yeah, it's small.
Yeah.
But
that's normal for
they've never hit $1 billion in profit. And they were like, look,
this like was the one time you should not say that.
I think so, right? But I'm not an accountant, but I mean, this is like the Luke Skywalker comes back in The Empire Strikes Back, and he's like, you told me that Darth Vader killed my father. I just found out that this guy is my father. And he's like, well, what I told you was true from a certain point of view. Actually, that was
the point of view of a liar.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this is from a certain point of view, that point of view being adjusted net income. Yeah, they had a $1.1 billion profit. I mean, okay. Some accountant somewhere was like, guys, there's a 1 followed by like whatever that is, 9 zeros.
Yeah.
We
Pretty sexy.
Let's do it. And I wish they hadn't, but they did. So
no.
I think Wall Street would have responded. Well, actually, maybe this is the real reason. I should have said this. Wall Street responds to feel goods, right? This is a feel good, and you're doing data. You're an AI. Awesome. Love to hear that. Your PC business somehow is doing incredible. Everything else is cratering. Yeah. And you just had your first $1 billion quarter. Your stock's up 20%. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
That's real money they can spend now to buy their way out of this situation they're in, right? Maybe. So that's why it's an accounting trick, but it's also maybe just accounting, right?
Yeah. I mean, stock price increases does not mean more cash in the bank.
Well, No, not directly, but I mean,
but it might mean some lending benefits and things like that.
Yeah.
Honest to God, if somebody got a promotion off the back of this set of lies, I'd be very disappointed.
Well, I don't know that part of the company, but so I've been pretty vocal about the big tech spending on AI stuff, right? And again, I shouldn't be the guy. I mean, this shouldn't be coming from me. There are people who know way more about this stuff, who know way more about just accounting and the financial responsibilities that these companies have and what the SEC expects and yada, yada, yada. This should not come from me. This is not my area. But, like I keep saying, I keep reporting on this stuff every quarter. So I see it, and I've seen the weirdness and the lack of transparency in Microsoft over many, many years. And then AI happens, and it's like, wow, what's happening here? This is where they're spreading out the life cycle of components that go into data centers, but from like 5 to 10 years, whatever the time frame is. They've never lasted that long. This is moving so fast. How could they possibly last this long now? They just, in their last quarter, stretched out the amount of time they're going to take to pay off all of their kind of physical AI data center component-based physical assets, meaning buildings and real estate and all the stuff that goes around with that as well. And they're taking a big chunk of that spending off of CapEx, which is what everyone looks at to understand how much you're spending on AI, because that's been almost literally 100% accurate. Well, except we're finding out that's not true, but like this is the number that we're putting on how much we're spending on AI. So they're obfuscating like how they're spending money and how much money they're spending, et cetera, et cetera. So I did the thing with Microsoft like I do every quarter, where I did whatever information they provided. I have this analysis, and then there was I don't remember the publication, Bloomberg maybe, I don't remember, but somebody went through their 10K filing, not their 10Q filing, but the 10K filing, which comes out once a year, and said, it turns out these guys, like 70% of their revenue is coming from OpenAI, but they gave OpenAI all that money to spend on their stuff. And it's like, this is money that doesn't actually exist. And that's kind of astonishing. Like, there's no real market here for that. And since then, this has literally been, not literally, I mean, it's almost been like 3 weeks in a row. It hasn't really, it's felt like 3 weeks in a row. It's probably been like 5 weeks, but 3 of the 5 weeks, like there's been some big thing. But this past week, the Wall Street Journal, which belatedly started writing about Microsoft and how they're not meeting their regulatory disclosure requirements, has a report, and Bloomberg actually has a report about the same thing and came to the same set of numbers, which is basically that Google, Microsoft, Amazon have two customers for AI, and it is like 70% of their revenues, and none of this money is real. It's like they're just coming up with ways to hide the spending. And it's like kind of like way worse than we thought it was. So if you look at the amount of money that these companies have said they've spent and the amount of money they say they will spend through, like, say 2028, I think was the time frame, they are vastly underreporting those numbers, to the tune of, like, Microsoft is in the 200 and something billion. It's actually like $1 trillion. And those three companies combined are spending over $3 trillion in money they do not have, hiding those costs all over the books in different ways. And then I don't remember which of the two, I think Bloomberg or the Wall Street Journal compared it to like other types of spending. And AI spending this year is 56 times the amount of money our entire country is spending on what they call traditional infrastructure. Bridges, tunnels, energy products, 56 times. NASA is going to return to the moon at a cost of $126 billion, which is less than 1/24th of the amount of money that we know big tech is spending on AI through 2028. But we don't know the full cost that there's, like we don't actually know.
No.
They're so good at hiding this money. So
the
this
question is, if they don't have that money, where is it coming from?
Right. Well, there's this is often referred to as a circular spending pattern where money is invented out of whole cloth and given to some company, which gives it to this company, which then gives it back to the original company, and all three of them reported as revenues. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't exist. So I don't know. Like a company like Microsoft they're humongous. They have big cash reserves. You were talking market cap. You're saying like that's not cash, right? And you correctly said this is money they can borrow against it, right? Yeah. One of the things like to look. It's not so true of Microsoft yet, although this will happen. But Google and Amazon, which is a different kind of company, frankly, but because of all their retail stuff, but are some of the biggest borrowers in the world as well, right? So these companies that have more cash than anybody are also borrowing more money than everybody. And a big part of this story...
We've invented a new form of credit default swap because it's feeling like 2008.
Turns out this isn't a new form because this is what Enron did, right? So what they did was, and what these companies are doing is borrowing money on rates that can only go up over time. And there's no ceiling on how high the rates can go. So at some point, your interest payments are just off the charts more than... what the thing you're paying off is worth, right? Like, I keep saying this, but the problem with AI, the problem with this spending stuff is just the scale of it, right? So when Enron Enron's famous, they made a movie, they wrote a book and there was a movie about it, right? Actually, an award-winning documentary was made, The Smartest Guys in the Room or whatever. These guys reported revenues of $100 billion one year, was at their peak, and they cost investors tens of billions of dollars. It was the grossest financial malfeasance one of them in the history of the United States. The amount of money that big tech is spending and reporting makes that look like a kid selling lemonade in the corner of a lawn. This is trillions of dollars, you know? So look, again, I'm not the guy. I shouldn't be the one talking about this. It bugs me. It just freaks me out because the ultimate problem here, the problem, I guess, is that this is going to impact all of us, right? You guys are hoping to retire someday, right? Or, this is impacting the economy. And I don't mean like just our country's economy, which is humongous by itself, but I mean like the entire planet economy. Like this is, I don't know, this is kind of weird. Google right now is, and again, I'm not going to get which of these publications said this, but they're on the hook for over $800 billion in purchase commitments and contractual obligations that this, whichever publication said, by the way, you cannot get out of. Like, you owe that money, and that cost is, if you don't borrow anymore, and they will borrow more, the cost of that's only going to go up because this is a variable interest rate, and it doesn't go down. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, the lender is going to be like, okay, let's go. Time to pay that thing off. Oh, and by the way, now it's 1.6 billion, or or whatever the number is, right? I don't know. This is concerning. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's my new role as Canary. Let's throw that out there.
You were so happy earlier. It's
I knew they could bring it back. Just stay true to yourself. We'll be fine. Okay, so. One of the worst kept secrets in our little corner of the world is that Microsoft has been talking about doing the super app thing, right? And ChatGPT, or OpenAI with ChatGPT talks about this. Anthropic talks about this. And the reason they all talk about it is because it's the same thing, right? They have all these different chat products or AI assistant products, and they do things like there's the chatbot thing, and they have the co-work or the work and the coding things and whatever. And they're like, we're going to combine all this stuff into like a single app. It's going to be for everybody. And if you're a Microsoft guy, if you've been around for a while, actually not that long, because it wasn't that long ago, we played this game before, right? This is what they did with Teams, right? Remember when Teams came out, I think originally there was a client and they were talking about federating it with MSA, like Microsoft accounts, so you could chat with Skype, right? And that I don't think ever happened, didn't matter. But at some point they were like, okay, we're going to have two apps. They're both going to be called Teams because Microsoft, and there'll be one for consumers and there'll be one for businesses. And that was super confusing. And then there were computers that had both
Skype
of them.
Too, right?
Skype,
there was Skype for business.
Yeah, it's a tradition. So you get all that stuff, and then they're like, we're just going to make one app. I don't know what we were thinking. Sorry, just kidding. We're going to have a single app. And
I've literally got the two.
Yep.
Copilot icons side by side. One's Mark 365 because it's
exactly. So the way this has evolved over time. Originally, there was a Copilot app, and to be clear, there were multiple versions of that app, meaning multiple user experiences and architectures. But originally, the goal was we're going to do both in one app, right? And then the idea was like, well, okay, as it turns out, because of the unique needs of businesses and policy and all that kind of stuff, we have to do two apps. And so there's a Microsoft 365 Copilot app, which is for Microsoft 365, business accounts, right? And then there's the Copilot app, which is for consumers. And for a little while, if you got a Windows PC, you got Copilot. But in last year, I'm not sure the exact time frame, but you will have one or the other. There was a period where you could have both, like pre-install, which is like whatever. But there was now the way it works as of today is if you buy a computer, if it's a business class computer, which is not as complicated as it sounds, if it comes with Pro, you get Microsoft 365 Copilot. If it comes with Home, you get Copilot. And then either one of those apps can be uninstalled. If you need the other one, you can install it. They're available in the store. I think you can get both just from the web as well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But now they're like, just kidding, we're going to have one app. And it's like, of course you are. So there's been like 300 different versions of Copilot apps. Now we're going to have 301. And there's this notion of this super app, right? Which is going to be the combination of all these capabilities, and God knows how it's going to work. But so when I saw this announcement, they sent it to me early or whatever, and I saw the email and I was like, okay, here we go. They're going to be talking super app. This is the super app. The combined app is the super app, right? And like, no, we're still doing a super app, but this is not it. This is the first step to the super app. First, we have to combine the things, and then we're going to have a super app. It's like, guys, could you just make the app? Like, just like make it or don't make it. Like, I don't just do one thing. I mean, it's just like so stupid, but it's like ahead of the super app. We will have a app. It will be an okay app. It's not super. It's like it's kind of an average app, but and it's going to happen over time.
App.
It's whatever it is. I don't know. Jesus, Microsoft. Just classic. I love when things just recur. It's like those who do not learn from history.
I'm so excited.
It was so good for Teams. Let's do it again.
Do you remember when we did that for Skype? That was awesome.
Yeah. And then you say that and people get like PTSD and they're like, yeah, I do remember that. I'm still in therapy because of that. And they do it again.
I remember Skype for Business. It's not Skype, and isn't that good for your business?
But if I have the app, I could Skype with people on Skype, right? No, that's ridiculous.
That'd be
what is
crazy.
wrong with you?
What are you thinking?
No, you're right. That's on me. Yeah. And they just keep doing it. Like they're doing it again. It's crazy.
One more time. It's a new generation.
They're getting rid of a bunch of features that nobody used, like the podcast feature, the little animated character that was sort of like Clippy. Remember that thing? I remember the name, Miro or something. Miro. That's going away. The whole
Bob.
Bob. Yeah, Bob. It's just so
evil
stupid.
twin.
I don't want to spend any time at all. I just want to riff on the headline. OpenAI. What goes through your brain when you see OpenAI announces ChatGPT for teens?
Nice.
Goddamn. Okay. What? Okay. It's all like, what could be dumber than this? This is going to be populated entirely by 50-year-old men. I don't know. I don't understand what this is for. I don't get it, but I'm not going to give that the time of day. I just want to point out how stupid that is. Mozilla has been talking about something called Smart Window for almost a year. Actually, last year it was originally called AI Window, but they were trying to come up with a way for the users that do want to use AI in Firefox to do that without compromising the whole point of Firefox, but also while respecting the wishes of people who just don't want any AI, right? So it's evolved over time. It's still in beta. I think you have to be in the U.S. and it has to be in English, maybe Canada too, to access this today. You can get on a wait list if you want to try it out early. It works well. It works like whatever they call an incognito or in private window, whatever that's called in Firefox. It works like that. But of course, once you do that kind of thing, it's like, okay, but so you're separating this. You've got this thing that has its own context, but there are going to be times when people do want the thing to have the context of other open tabs or your browsing history or blah blah blah, whatever. So they just announced the way they will be doing that, and part of it includes, I've never heard of this company, maybe Leo or Richard have, but they're partnering with a company called Exa, EXA.
Oh,
and I guess they make I don't want to call it a private web search, but they make a web search service that's built for
Exa is one of many providers you can have for your agent to do searches for the web. So Kagi has one. I use one.
Yeah, I figured you would know.
Called
SearXNG
or Searching. But Exa is another one. Yeah. There's quite a few of these.
This interview, or not interview, but this announcement is interesting because there was sort of an announcement just about Smart Window, and here's how the couple things we're adding. This was one of the three, but they also had a separate announcement just for this partnership, and they were talking about this. So, Mozilla, relatively speaking, is kind of a small organization, right? They don't have infinite money, and they're like, look, this kind of partnership. And they didn't say it exactly this way. I'm just like paraphrasing here, but of like-minded, organizations or companies is the type of thing you're going to see us do more. Like when we find a service like this we can trust, where this can make sense within Firefox or whatever we're doing. This is the first of what they said will probably be many of these types of partnerships. So this is like the way to get recent, or what do you call it? Like recent web results or whatever it is, as part of whatever thing you're doing in this AI window, which is not called Smart Window. But
so you'd still use Google or whatever, or Cocky in my case, in Firefox.
Whatever
But this is for the agentic.
Yeah, so this is for their Smart Window. So if you think about it like I said, like a private window.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of private window, but it's just for AI. But you have to let things in, or maybe you want to, right? Including such things as like web results, right? Like you want to be able to search the web,
right,
and have whatever you're doing with AI be able to access that recent information. So they're starting to integrate that into Smart Window. If you have Firefox on iPhone and iPad, it's also available in the Quick Answers feature in that app, which I don't.
So this makes sense. I mean, I do the same thing with my agent. If I say to my agent, just like it's doing in the Mozilla example, what's the best way to train for a 10K? Right. The agent's going to go out to the web and look what people say. You
don't want to just have like whatever's in the AI database from the 1950s. It's like, eat a lot of potatoes.
Once in a while,
smoke.
That's actually a funny thing.
That'll help keep the weight off.
If it can't get, for some reason, my agent often finds it hard to find the searching database. So it just says, well, I couldn't find it on the web, but I happen to know quite a bit about this subject. And so it really will look within its model. And so, depending on how recently the model's been trained, sometimes it's actually pretty good. It's kind of funny. It's fun to work with AI because weird things happen all the time like that.
Well,
including speaking in Japanese and Chinese.
Yeah.
It's the land of rabbit holes is what it is.
Right.
Well, it's because it's a probabilistic machine, not a deterministic code. So it does weird things sometimes.
No one will like this word, but there's it's almost, again, I know it's not correct, but there's an almost creative nature to this because everyone has because everyone's experienced, like on a phone or on the computer, you search for something, and then some link is like, and you do a lot of click tabbing, or like control tabbing, whatever, and you go over to this, and then it's the rabbit hole thing, and so the next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock, and you have to go home. You're like, what did I do today? All I did was read these web pages, but then AI doesn't turn it on its head, but AI kind of makes it into more of a conversation you're having with this entity, which feels like a person sort of in some ways. And then, because some of the stuff it comes out with it's just like crazy. It's like, this is like it becomes entertainment almost. Like it's the same thing, but it's also different, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's interesting. But
I think I did say to my co-pilot at one point today, this is not what I wanted, but you have amused me, so you may have more electrons upon it.
You get to live for another day.
That's it.
Did you actually do that?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
It's good. I know it's probably pathological and not a good thing, but I talk to my agent like it's a person.
I do think that's actually healthy and the right thing to do. I also
constantly reminded it's software. I did not, say go have a drink. It's like go ahead. No, I get know some of those sparkling electrons. Enjoy them.
If I was literally retired, I would probably spend entire days just messing with AI, and I mean literally messing with AI. The way, if a telemarketer would call me, I sometimes would answer the phone, say hello, and they're like, hi, I'm blah, blah, and I put the phone down, and I would just type. I would just keep working. I couldn't hear what they were saying, and they're like, hello? Hello? And they could just hear me typing. Like, I would mess with them like that. I'd be like, no, you're the smartest guy in the room, dude. You're the smartest guy. No, you just like be as dumb to them as they are to you.
I don't want to do that because I'm afraid it will remember it and punish me later.
Please.
Right.
No, it does. Because I have a lot of memory wired up. It will remember it.
No, the way you're using AI, you should not do that. But
yeah. but I did make, I did make Grok's voice be, because I call it Kronk, the voice of Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. It's
what?
Patrick Warburton does that great kind of.
That's so great.
What I'm doing. And then I made GLM5, who I call Zed, because it's running on Z.AI. Zed is HAL 9000's voice, which is really funny. So every once in a while, I'll say,
you've created like the audible version of a collection of Batman villains.
It drives me crazy.
Like you're probably wondering why I gathered you all here today.
It's totally minions.
Yeah.
But it's fun because every once in a while, I'll say to Zed, open the pod bay doors. and it will immediately respond in Hal's
"I'm sorry,
voice.
Leo."
But it doesn't. It does. It says, "I'm sorry, Leo." It doesn't say, "I'm sorry." It says, "I'm sorry, Leo. I can't do that," and then laughs maniacally.
I'll tell you.
I have the other one as Captain Picard. So
Nice.
So yesterday I said, "Make it so, number 2," and it said, "No, you've got that wrong. It's number 1."
Nice. Yikes.
In Picard's voice.
You haven't earned your promotion.
I still I told the story years ago probably, but this is no longer the case. But there was a thing where we would leave where we live here in the car, and the Google Maps is talking to you, and it says, "Take a left or take a right onto Lower Makungi."
Yeah.
And then you would drive down the street, and Makungi is not correct. It's Makungi. But then you're partway down the road, it will say, "Continue straight on Lower Makungi." And you're like, wait a minute, what? So I'm writing about the stupid Google speaker. Oh, yeah. I wasn't even talking to her. I was just talking out probably to my wife. I guess she's the only one in the house, but about some weather thing. And then it says, "The temperature in Makungi today will reach a high of 84 degrees. A, I did not ask you. B, it's Makungi, idiot. Like, what? Like, could we get this consistent at least?"
And
it kind of takes you out of it.
Misspelled Makungi, and I apologize. I'm going to fix that right now.
Did you fix it? Or I can even see it.
I changed it. You said Lower Mac, and I just
see?
For consistency, I made it be Makungi, but I misspelled it, so I'm fixing
It's not correct. Yeah.
This is where Google gets their pronunciation from. Thanks.
It's Leo's fault. It's Leo's fault.
I knew it. Bastard.
Is it Scots? It must be Scots. Lower Makungi.
No, I believe that's like an indigenous word.
It's in Indian.
It means bear swamp.
Really?
Nice.
Yes.
Makungi.
Our town, if you've ever watched, what's that show that was like a take on The Office with Amy Poehler, Parks and Rec?
Oh, Parks and Rec, yeah.
If you ever watch that town there, Pawnee or whatever, that's
Pawnee.
Makungi. It's like
Pawnee.
It's
That's
exactly that.
Yeah.
It's exactly that town.
That's how I see it. Our Petaluma, it turns out, means the other side of the hill.
There you go.
And since I'm over the hill, it's perfect for me.
Right. Yeah, like Lower Makungi
Nobody's
should be
confused
like,
about Mad Park. It makes perfect sense.
Mad Park
Been
is
around here for a
great.
while.
Love Mad Park. Yeah.
Yep.
Now we're moving on to. Did you do the free TV?
No, I don't have an
Fire
article about
TV?
this. I just saw this headline. I thought this might be slightly interesting. There could be a case to be made that for consumers who just want to talk to a box on the wall or whatever, Alexa Plus might be the thing, except they charge you for it. But now if you have a Fire TV device, apparently in the United States, you actually just get that for free. Like you don't have to have Prime.
It's a cheap way to get it.
Yeah. I'm definitely not saying get a Fire TV, and I'm absolutely not saying use Alexa Plus, but I don't know. I mean, if you just want to talk to
how does that product survive with what's happening right now? Honestly.
Plus, I mean, it's run by Panos Panay now, so that business must be going great.
It's somewhat amusing. I should ask it. Are you pumped? Come on, Alexa.
Yeah.
You're pumped, aren't you?
Pumped.
I did notice that for some reason my NVIDIA Shield, which is a Google TV device, has started using Alexa's voice.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I must have
Alexa's voice or the actual
No,
service?
I think it's Alexa, yeah.
Oh, boy. That's
I know.
That's
Why would
weird.
Google do that?
No,
But NVIDIA maybe
spooky.
made a deal.
Maybe
Because it is an NVIDIA device. I don't know. I turned it off immediately.
yeah, jeez.
It stopped. Ladies and gentlemen, you are attending the very fabulous Windows Weekly show featuring Bear Swamp and the Boathouse.
Yeah. Pretty
Name
much.
of our new band.
I'm sure that's a movie with Clint
Yeah.
Eastwood in it.
It does sound like a Clint Eastwood movie. Bear Swamp and the Boathouse.
Is this the one where he sings? I
There'll
don't
be a
like the one where he
chimpanzee
sings.
Well, you've put up with enough now. Let's this is your reward. The dessert at the end of the rainbow. It is time for the fabulous Xbox segment with Mr. Pauly T in Bear Swamp, PA.
Yeah, I mean, for a change, I don't think I have any bad news this week, so that's
so
kind of
weird.
Man,
fun.
this is the new Paul Thurrott. We are really puzzled by this.
I am
Somebody did a typo, and I'm here for it. It's Pal Thurrott.
Pal. Pal Thurrott, our buddy.
Yep. Your AI assistant with positivity.
I'm making a new AI called Pal Thurrott. I love it.
Staying.
It'll
Pal
be grumpy.
Thurrott.
It's like him, but it is nothing like him. God damn it.
It's Pal Thurrott.
Okay, pal.
I got nothing. All right, so we've moved into the second half of August. So we got a new batch of Game Pass titles coming. None of these mean anything to me, other than what I believe is the third Plague Tale game. Resonance of Plague Tale Legacy is the name of the title.
They made 3 of those?
I thought there were 2. I don't know if this is the third one or a remake of an earlier one or whatever, but I do know I played. I never finished one, but I played through quite a bit of, I want to say the 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Anyway.
So many games.
It's a good game.
God.
And then the rest of this is like what? It's just like
you're just game roster.
You're just making up names now. Shell Diver.
Yeah.
Relooted. BlazBlue. What? Like, I don't. Are we just mixing up letters now?
All your favorites.
Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so whatever. Okay, that's fine.
Your favorites from this C list.
Every month there's an update for Xbox. In months past, in years past, it's always been across platforms. So you get updates on the mobile, on PCs, on console. There are still updates across all the platforms. Oh my God, this year it's all been, it seems like it's all been console. There's been a lot of stuff going on console. The big one to me is if you, they have, sometime in the past year, they added this notion of like game hubs to the UI. So for many games, not all games, but you can go, like when you click on a game in the interface, it brings up like a hub for all the stuff that you have, that it has about the game and you have. So if you, like whatever achievements you've gotten, the game captures you've made, blah, 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 whatever. So they've added Xbox 360 titles to this, which is kind of cool. And I think kind of a hint toward the future where we get backwards compatibility of Xbox 360 games on the PC, right? Speaking of which, I didn't put this in. I haven't written about this. So at first, I was positive I would write about it, and then I was like, I'm not really sure what to say here. I did play 2 of the backward compatibility games from the original Xbox on PC. I think the reason I didn't see them immediately was I was in Mexico, I'm guessing. But as soon as I got home, they were right there. It was fine. They came up, normally. They're okay. These games are dated. I mean, obviously, the weirdest thing about it is like in both cases, I couldn't figure out how to exit out to the desktop. Like there's no, unless I must be missing something. I don't know. But I had to like literally crash both games to get out. But they just, they play and they work like you would expect. They're, you know what? That's not true. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. They work and play as they did then. The thing is, things have changed since then, right? And so in both cases, like you ever like in the original Halo and the remake of Halo, they just did the first thing you do is they wake you up, you're Master Chief, right? And then you do a thing where the guy says, "Look up at the ceiling," and you look up at the ceiling, and the thing says, "Is this correct, or do you want to reverse the joystick direction?" Right? Like there's a
right,
because it's kind of like a flight sim thing where you push forward to go up or whatever, it's kind of reverse of what many people would think would be the normal, movements or whatever. These both these games were backwards to me. Like I think they were what was normal in I almost said 1980, in 2001 or whatever year. Today, I think the default is actually the opposite. So using both was actually very awkward, right? One was Blinks, that time travel game. It looks like a Crash Bandicoot type title. And the other one was that Crimson Sky games, which I remember being awesome. And speaking of the Amiga, if you ever played, was that by Wink? No. I forgot. How could I forget this? There was an awesome biplane World War I game on the Amiga that is kind of the presentation is very reminiscent. Why can't I think of the name of this thing? I can't think of it. But everything was backwards.
Wings of Glory?
No. It was the guys that made Defender of the Crown, And it came from the desert, and there was a Three Stooges game. Cinemaware, I think was the name of the game
Three
company.
Stooges game, really?
Yeah, there was. It was actually pretty good if you like pies in the face.
Yeah, wise guy,
Yep, a lot of that.
Dawn Patrol.
Nope.
Chat room.
So
Chat room. What are you doing?
right, someone will know this. I have the name Wing Commander stuck in my brain, which is why I can't think of it. It's Wings. I think it might just be called Wings, like the TV show, maybe. Something like that. It was awesome. It was a really good game. Anyway, Wings. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is.
It,
Cheeky Commodore Gamer says it's Wings.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's awesome. The presentation of this original Xbox game is very similar. Obviously more modern, but anyway, it just worked, and I was like, I don't know what to say. It kind of just works. Like it's like whatever. So it's just there. Anyway, that's there. But they're putting Xbox 360 games into the hub system they have now, and I think that's going to be because they're going to be on PC soon. And then separate from the stable monthly release, Xbox insiders are now testing new features, which they've been doing a lot of this year. And this is like local game management stuff, new profile badges, and the more detailed achievements might be in the stable, and I don't remember. But it's been a busy year. Like if you have a console and you really care about this, and they've been paying a lot of attention to it, so that's been good. There's been a lot of stuff with Google and Epic and antitrust in the United States, and now Google has third-party game stores in the Play Store. These two companies settled twice, and both times the judge said, nope, it has to be better than what you both agreed to. That's astonishing. After the second, it's incredible. So after the second settlement, which the judge approved of, they implemented the first. So the first, we talked about this probably a week or two ago. The first third-party game store is available in the Play Store, but you can't actually find it. Like if you go to Play Store on your Android phone, you're like, all right, I know the name of it. I'll search. Nope. If you're like third-party game stores, nope. So the judge was like, no, this isn't right. You have a week to fix this. This has to be easier. That's astonishing. Now we have Apple.
This judge is very annoyed with Apple.
That's Google. So,
okay.
There's a whole thing with Apple. That's happening too. There's a whole thing in the U.S. The Supreme Court is going to look at a very small part of the Apple's attempted appeal, but Apple had to look.
I don't know that I'd touch this with a 10-foot pole.
It's incredible. I know, same. But Apple was basically but the lower court is continuing with. You still have to figure. You have to tell us.
Simply charge contempt.
Right. Well, I mean, Apple's been charging all of us with contempt since they started the App Store. So yeah, it should be something that happens immediately. But anyway, that's ongoing. But now in the EU, of course, we have the same problem, right? So the EU is like, this App Store stuff is violating the DMA. You have to allow third-party app stores. You have to make it frictionless. You can't just charge arbitrary fees, blah, blah, blah. So Apple pretended to comply with that a year and a half ago, whatever it was, with the core technology fee, which is basically like, all right, we're not going to charge you 30%. You can use any app store, any fee system you want, you can have a third-party app store, but we're going to charge you 27%. It's like, guys, no. So they came back with something that the EU has provisionally agreed to, the European Commission, and it's much lower fees. Like it's a 5% commission on transactions that occur within apps that are distributed outside its app store, which is still junk fees, but 5% versus 27%, basically. That's kind of, I'm simplifying, but there are other things. And I was like, okay, this looks pretty good. But then Epic Games came out with this thing where they were like, no, they're still charging a 20% fee on alternative in-app payment options. They're still charging a 15% fee on links just to make purchases outside of apps, and then the 5% thing. So they're basically quoting back to the EU what their law says and what they said was okay that Apple is now doing, and they're like, no, this is not okay. If you allow this, your law is meaningless. And I was like, it's still better, okay. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. They've been pretty malleable on this. And then I think I don't remember if we talked about this before or during the show, but on Friday, so 2 days from today as we record this, on the 21st, the first early access beta for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, the next Call of Duty, is occurring. So if you pre-order the game, you can get into this thing. It will run from the 21st to the 25th, and then there'll be an open beta from the 28th to the 1st. So if you pre-order, you'll have those 2 periods of time where you can actually play this thing. The thing that's unique, well, there's a couple of things. So it's going to be on Xbox Series X and S, of course, PlayStation 5 and PC, but also Nintendo Switch 2. No, they won't. Just
Wow.
kidding. They have to wait till the open beta, but that's happening. So that's coming to that platform. It's a big deal. And also for the first time ever for an early beta like this, what do we call this? Closed beta, early access beta. There's going to be a single player level in there, so you can actually kind of see what that looks like. I think they're really trying to get people
Has Call of Duty ever had a single player game? I thought it was always a multiplayer game.
Not well,
you can play
almost,
Call of Duty versus zombies,
almost
right?
every but they've been single player campaigns. Like most Call of Duty games do have a single player experience.
Right.
They've never done one in the beta.
Oh, okay. So that's the thing. It's in the beta.
Yeah, the beta has always been multiplayer. So they're actually giving people a chance to just look at the single player, right? Which suggests to me that they feel pretty good about it, right? Because usually it's a steaming pile of crap. But, well, that's not fair. I mean, back in the day, some of them were really good, actually. But lately, I try every one. Black Ops 7 doesn't technically have a traditional single player experience. It has kind of like a co-op. It's like it's not a multiplayer thing, but it's co-op campaign, and so I've never done that one. But I mean, other than that, I pretty much either played all of them all the way through, or at least partway through. But this one's starting to look like it's going to be pretty good. Like it looks like this is going to be gritty and kind of boots on the ground type stuff, like what Call of Duty has not been for quite a while. So that's exciting. I'm going away tomorrow. Like I'm going to be gone for the long weekend, and I am absolutely bringing a gaming PC. And it's like, have fun at the winery, guys. I'm going to be here.
Wait a minute, you're bringing a desktop computer or a laptop?
No, it's a laptop. I'm not an idiot. It's an 18-inch laptop, but it's like, it weighs 30 pounds. Yeah, it has a handle. You can carry it. It has 2 wheels pop out, and you can roll it around.
You are wild. So they're going to be out there tasting wine, enjoying.
I mean, I'll do some of that. I don't know. Like
you can bring me some wine back to me. I take a break once in a while.
Everybody listening to this show completely understands Paul, because we're just a bunch of introverts, and there's only so much time you can spend with a human before you have to retreat.
Stuff.
I can't
charge your batteries.
So as you said that, I often say to people, and I think 80% of the people I say this to do not know what I'm saying. Like other people will be leaving and I'm staying back, and I'll be like, you kids have fun storming the castle. And
get it?
They're like, is your husband brain damaged? What was that?
See, you're amongst friends here, Paul.
Yeah, I know. I know you guys get it. I'm like, but I just don't. I don't know.
I don't mean just
you do Princess Bride quotes all day long, right?
Oh my God!
I don't mean Richard and me. I mean the entire 70.
No, I know. I know.
I
know what you mean. Yeah. No, I know.
They all get it. Y'all get it, right? There's stuff going on behind the scenes in the podcasting world. It's kind of inside baseball, but I kind of want to share it with our audience, because I think they should know why we're plugging Club Twit so hard all the time. There's a big movement going on, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it next month at the podcast convention, the podcast movement. It's primarily, I believe, driven by agencies and big companies like Amazon, Spotify. Because, so the thing that precipitated this was yesterday or the day before, YouTube announced, we're going to count a view. If you just watch 1 second of a video, that's a view. Which, by the way, YouTube views have always been highly inflated.
Well, does that mean now that because you accidentally hovered your mouse over a video and it autoplays?
That's what's next. Yeah, if it autoplays, that's a second.
Jeez.
So we know that YouTube video views. I mean, you don't get 100 million views in 5 minutes. I'm sorry. That's. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Agencies are using that as a pretext, and I think it's driven also by Spotify. Agencies don't want to count downloads. They want to count streaming. I know this is kind of inside baseball, but I think it might be of interest to some of you. They want to count. They only want to count a podcast listen if you stream it on an app, and there's a reason for that, like Spotify, or Audible or whatever. There's a reason for that because they know who you are. If you're using an app, they have your credit card. They know exactly who you are, and they know whether you heard that ad, whether you skipped it. They know exactly what happened. And of course, an advertiser, this is what they want. They want all the information they can get about you, all the data. And the advertisers have always said, we just don't know if people are seeing our ads. It's back since Wanamakers.
So we're going to undermine everything that makes a podcast great for our metrics.
Yeah. Yes. And podcasts are fundamentally downloads. You use a podcast client, you listen.
It's all about the time shift, man. Listen when you want to listen.
When you want to. But they want you to stream it, which you could still time shift Spotify and so forth. You just press play. But that's what's happening. And now that YouTube they say, we're not going to count YouTube ever again. Not because they don't want to count YouTube. Believe me, if you're a YouTube creator, you're selling every one of those views and they're buying it. That's not what it's about. It's a pretext to say, well, we knew podcasting on YouTube was not going to work, and we don't want to count downloads. We just want to make sure that you listen on Spotify, which brings me to why we did Club Twit, because we knew, look, advertisers want to collect as much information about you as they can. They want to know everything they can know about you, and we think that's antithetical to the nature of podcasting. We don't know anything about you because it's an RSS feed. We know your IP address, but if you work at a company, that could be one in a million, right? If you're at Microsoft downloading the podcast, all we know is that somebody at Microsoft downloaded. We don't know anything about you, and we don't want to. I don't think we need to, because we're such targeted programming. Everybody listening to this show is interested in technology and IT and computers and Microsoft. That should be enough for our advertisers. I think it is for most of our advertisers. But ad agencies and the whole podcast, not the creators, they don't care about people who make podcasts. The podcast infrastructure really don't want you to download it. So I think in time, it's going to be harder and harder for us to sell advertising, to be honest with you. It already is pretty darn hard. There are other structural reasons why that is. We outsourced it, which was a huge mistake. We're taking it back in-house pretty much right away because it was a huge mistake. But the other thing that Lisa was brilliant. She runs the company. She was brilliant. During COVID, she said, we got to have a club. And I've always thought listeners should support the shows. These are for you. We make them for you. So we created Club Twit. And Club Twit is $10 a month. I know you're paying for it, but that's so we don't have to give you any ads at all. You're replacing this ad-based infrastructure, which is already starting to crumble and will at some point in the next few years, I think, completely die for downloadable podcasts. Everybody will force you to listen on Spotify or Audible or whatever. So if you care about independent podcasting that's traditional, that doesn't collect information about you, the best way to support it is by supporting us. $10 a month gets you ad-free versions of all the shows. Because there's no ads, we have the timing. We know exactly. So we can do chapter markers, which people have always asked us for. Because some of our advertising on this show, for instance, there are 4 ad slots, but there's only 1 ad. So there will be, God willing, 1 or 2 inserted ads, and we don't know how long those are. So that screws up the whole chapter marker thing. But if there's no ads, then the chapter markers are accurate. So we can do that in the ad-free versions. We also give you access to the Club Twit Discord, which I really like. It is a lot of fun. Some great, smart people. Many of our hosts are in there. It's just wonderful. And because we have the Discord and we have club members, we can do a lot of programming that we would never be able to sell advertising on, like the AI user group. The fun show Off by One that we do with Jeff Atwood, who's a real character. And advertisers don't get it, but geeks get it. And we care about making programming for geeks. Micah's Media Club, Stacy's Book Club coming up this Friday. I think we're going to do another AI user group also this Friday. There's a lot. The photo show. There's so much stuff we do specifically for you, the club members, and your membership supports that as well. So if you enjoy this programming, if you listen, let's say if you listen to, a show a week or 2 shows a week, $10 a month, a couple of bucks a show seems reasonable to me. I understand times are tough. If you can't afford it, that's fine. We will, I promise you, always offer free content as best we can, ad supported. But going forward, the future is with Club Twit, and we would like to have you in it. Right now, only 1 to 2% of the audience actually is a member. That if we got to 4 or 5%, we wouldn't have to worry about advertising. I'd like to get to that. You can help. twit.tv/Club Twit. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I won't belabor the point, but it really is. I'm sure you see this too, Richard. The good news is your shows and our shows are so targeted at such a specific audience that we can still sell ads, like security ads and computer ads.
Certain verticals.
Very verticals. Yeah. But I fear for, that's why podcasts, if you're wondering why podcasts now are mostly celebrities, that now you know. That's why. Mm-hmm. That's really,
it's all residual content for selling other things, right?
Yeah.
Podcasts aren't a stream unto themselves.
You nailed it, of course. All right, now it's time for the back of the book. And Mr. Pauly Thurrott, your tip of the week, sir.
Well, I think I mentioned this off the cuff a couple of weeks ago because I saw it for the first time and I was like, this can't be real, but it's real.
This is another Pal Thurrott moment. I'm loving this show.
So,
Pollyanna, we're going to call him.
Pollyanna. Thank you. So there's been some history here, which I could not possibly decipher the entire history of. But at some point, on September 30, 2009, 2014, Microsoft announced the Windows Insider program, right? It was very engineering driven. They quickly got millions of people to join up. They were providing feedback. They were apparently listening, et cetera. And back then, the Insider program was simple. Each version of Windows you were testing, or the thing you were testing, the rings, as we called them at the time, were channels today, were tied to some Windows version that was coming out in the future. And there's a checkbox that is in there to this day. If you enroll a computer in the Windows Insider program, you can go in and you can go back into it and check the box that says, when this version of Windows ships, get me out of here. That thing hasn't done anything for 10 years. Like, it has not worked.
Like that light switch on your wall that does nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And then
I have one of those.
The phone rings one day, and it's the guy from Germany who says, stop doing that. Exactly. So, yes, that's exactly. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. This has always bothered me, right? You got to give people an escape hatch. The problem from their perspective, Microsoft's perspective, I guess, was that at some point the Windows Insider program evolved to where many of those channels now were not tied to a version of Windows anymore. And it was like, well, this doesn't make any sense anymore. So
there's nowhere to get out.
This, like I said, this UI is still there. I was in
my
Mexico.
experience was you had to pave the machine. Like that was
right. Oh yeah, no, I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Yeah. So I was in Mexico. I don't remember the circumstances anymore, but I checked the box. I'm like, just what the heck, and you reboot. Comes back, you have a new build, and what it says in Windows Update is you have a new instead of like preview update blah 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 build 26.6 some number, it says you have Windows 10 version 25H2. Like, wait, what? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And it worked, and I was like, oh my god, this is the first time I've seen this thing work in, like I said, 10 years. So since I've been home, I have many more computers here, several of which are in the Insider program. So I'm paving one over today, and two today. Sorry, but I finished one, and in both cases, I just checked the box. You reboot, you install whatever updates there, reboot, and then you're offered Windows 11 25H2, and I'm like, yeah, this is what this thing should do. So it's even better than what it says. It's not just go back when this version of Windows ships. It's go back today, right? Which is the way operating systems should work.
Yeah.
So that's really good news. Now, I'm going to keep working on this, but I've now seen this on 3 different computers, and it's like, okay, so something has changed here. This is really good news. So that's just awesome, I mentioned a web browser last week. I'm not going to talk about that web browser, but I am going to talk about Brave briefly because they had an announcement this week about, Brave has always been kind of at the forefront of, privacy, security, and web browsers, whatever. They do a really good with the anti-tracking stuff. There's a site everyone should use called Cover Your Tracks. As you install or use a web browser, you install whatever extensions you're using to block ads and trackers and stuff. Go to that site and just make sure, because it will test exactly what you're giving up to the world. And, you want to get that kind of, there's 3 main criteria, but then you get details, whatever. Brave is always, Helium, very good too, out of the box, because Helium comes with uBlock origin. But Brave, like with no extensions, is like, yeah, no, you're fine. Like it's the only browser, like it's kind of awesome like that, right?
So that's how it's built.
Yep, it's just excellent. But we know this from like the way that Meta and Facebook and those things like bypass the app tracking feature that's built into iPhones now, and the way that these companies track you on the web when they can't directly track you because maybe you're using a VPN or maybe you're using like a good browser like Brave or whatever. They are starting to do more advanced forms of fingerprinting, which is basically a collection of many small data points that collectively point to you as an individual with a computer on the internet or whatever the device is. And that's how they get around this stuff, right? So they've gotten really sophisticated at it. There's a new form of fingerprinting that uses GPU and WebGL APIs that expose information about your graphics cards and the drivers and stuff that you have. And that's become a major way to fingerprint you online. And so starting with the latest version of Brave, which is already out, desktop and Android so far, they're just obfuscating all this information. So everyone who uses Brave is sending the exact same data to these idiots, and they have no idea who you are. So they can't use this information to fingerprint you anymore. So there you go.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's so funny because, we focus so long on cookies.
Right.
That stupid cookie banner.
You got to move on to the next threat.
Cookies they weren't much of a threat. And now they're none of a threat because of fingerprinting.
Yeah, it was easy to understand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy
Everything
for
gets
EU
complicated.
Legislators to understand, I guess.
Right. So anyway, I would imagine other tracker extensions and whatnot will start doing this kind of thing as well. But
yeah, I mean, and I love Cover Your Tracks. It's a very good, that's EFF. And it's a good way to see what your fingerprint is.
Yeah, it's just a nice quick reminder that nothing you do is sacred online. So, it
is very tempting just to give up and say, all right.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, you look at, you're like, yeah, no, I'm screwed. It's just like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like as long as I'm online, it's like, yep, it's you,
Yep.
Yep. Gotcha.
And this is a lot of the phone is listening to your thing too. When you think about it, like people are still convinced like, oh no, the phone, like the microphones are on, and they don't really need that. They're fingerprinting. Like that's
so primitive. That's so old school.
Turn on your microphone. Are you kidding me?
That's one of the reasons I'm spending so much time and money trying to make my AI more local, because everything you do with AI is getting sent up to this cloud.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And who knows what they do with it?
Well, they're going to target missiles with it eventually, Leo. So
Maybe I should send them my information. Let's talk about Run As Radio, Mr. Richard Campbell.
Very fortunate to get Liz Tesh back on the show. I had her on once before. She used to be part of Meerkat team, which was the Microsoft Incident Response and Critical Action team. So this is literally the person that was part of the team that dealt with major cybersecurity incidents, both within and outside of Microsoft, but has moved over into a architecture role on the product side, specifically in Defender. And so the conversation we went into is what they call automatic attack disruption and predictive shielding for Microsoft Defender, which is a terrible name. But it also tells you exactly what it does. This is astonishing, and I didn't know this was in here. But if you've got the Defender XDR turned on, and you've got to have a certain class of tenant and so forth for that, you now have a tool that monitors what's going on inside of your tenant all of the time. And when it sees something it thinks is an attack, not only does it immediately notify, but it takes actions. It locks down accounts. It can restrict a server it thinks is compromised, a VM. It can even go so far as to start reversing changes that were made from that account. So if GPOs were changed or even safe mode features, like it'll just start shutting all that stuff down in real time. So essentially, as soon as a breach, what's happening now is that breaches are happening, and there's automation now to quickly make lateral movements inside of your tenant to get into a server, to open up rights and so forth. And so they've essentially built a set of tools now that respond in real time. And so by the time you've got the message that there's a possible breach underway, the tool's already contained it. This is what you pay for cloud for, is the level of something you couldn't do yourself. Just be able to respond that quickly. And they have the fingerprints of all of these attacks. Of course, they have that catbird seed over top of what's happening throughout the cloud universe here. And so, these new Defender tools are just getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And now they're taking action on it, that you can really, by the time you know about the attack, it's already in a can.
Nice.
And now you can choose what to do from there. So,
fantastic.
Just one of those, radio. I never thought such a thing could exist. It's just like, that's cool. And she helped build it, coming from her experience dealing with these things. It's like those few minutes when a breach happens, the actions these tools can take and just stop the damage.
We need it nowadays, sad to say. Things move so fast.
It's anticipation of this new stage of rapid attack.
Yep. All right. Your turn to talk whiskey. What do you got there in your hand there?
We're in Canada.
Ooh.
Notice still got the seal on it. This is Red Bank. It's handcrafted, apparently. It's got a nice logo on it. Very cool bottle. Little etching in there. Red Bank whiskey. And on the back it says Nova Scotia, Canada, which is interesting. Premium blended Canadian whiskey. You will be very disappointed with that website. It is just basically a video. There's nothing else. But the important
It's a nice video. It's got a sailing ship.
Cool, right? And they're really pumping that whole Nova Scotia angle in a big way. No two ways about it. But written down the bottom bottle, this is signature. Kiefer Sutherland.
No.
The actor. This is a celebrity whiskey.
Oh.
Now listen, generally speaking, I am highly suspicious of celebrity whiskeys. Like, we've done this before. And, because on the surface you think it's a Nova Scotia whiskey. And I'm like, well, is it? Actually, I had a moment where after everything I've talked about in Canadian history on these shows lately, isn't it weird that Nova Scotia is called Nova Scotia? Because
it's that New Scotland, right? That's
New Scotland in Latin, right? The Micmacs called it Mi'kmaq for what, 3,000 years?
Yeah.
Okay. But even the French were there first. They had Port Royal set up in 1605, and it was Acadia. And then after that, of course, it's a British colony, right? But this whole Nova Scotia thing comes from King James VI of Scotland, also known as James I of England. And the king there wanted a Scottish colony. And so without ever seeing it, without ever having control over it, he granted the region to one Sir William Alexander in 1621. And I would point at that point, the French had a colony on that chunk of land for like 15, 16 years. And William did the right thing, which is he filed the paperwork properly. And he used, of course, a Latin name, which was the formal language of diplomacy at the time. So, and then, of course, ultimately the English end up in control with it. So they just keep the name. Random anecdote about Nova Scotia. Very odd. Let's go talk about, if you haven't heard of Kiefer Sutherland, he's an actor. He's the son of Donald Sutherland, also an actor now passed. Kiefer was born in London, but he's raised in Canada. His father's a Canadian, very much a Canadian. Now, and generally speaking, celebrity whiskeys are like super suspect. And this is incredibly young. This whole initiative starts in 2022. But unlike most celebrity whiskeys, where a group of whiskey guys get together and say, hey, we need a celebrity, this conversation actually starts with Kiefer. So Kiefer has a buddy from the music industry, a guy named Gary Briggs, and they were both enjoyed drinking whiskey, and Kiefer's always been a whiskey fan. And the conversation about whiskey, gets a little more, animated. And a friend of Gary Briggs's from the broadcasting industry, a guy named Rob Steele, they all end up collaborating, saying, like, if we're really going to make whiskey, what are we going to do? And Rob Steele has a friend named John Hiscott, and Hiscott is a serious whiskey veteran, a spirits veteran. He worked for Diageo as a director. Rob Steele also has a home in Nova Scotia, in an area called Hubbard's, and there's one particular part of the coastline that they're called Red Bank. So there you go. And it's Sean Hiscott, I believe, I didn't have all the details on this, who got this master blender involved, a guy named Michel Marcil, Quebecois, 40 plus years working Canadian whiskey. He was actually educated as a chemist. He worked as an executive or a vice president for a group called Kruger Wine and Spirits out of Montreal, and made a number of different beverage products, including flavored whiskey products. The product Michel would be most famous for is something called Spicebox whiskey, which I've never talked about before on the show. Maybe we will one of these days. But I bring up that point because they call him a master blender, but this is not like a Stillman. This is a chemist who's going to blend whiskeys to make this thing. And so, as I've done the research on this, they say point blank, this is sourced whiskeys from several Canadian distilleries. The quote from Michel is that Kiefer told me he couldn't find anything in the Canadian whiskey market that he liked. This is back in 2022. And so he pulled samples from a bunch of different Canadian whiskeys and actually composed together 9 different blends that the team, including Kiefer, all tasted and selected to just a few. And ultimately, this is the initial one. So that begs the question, like, where does this thing actually come from? And they have no documentation. I looked everywhere. But I would say this. First off, it certainly did not come from Nova Scotia, because Nova Scotia has no large-scale distilleries. They have several craft distilleries. So we talked about Glenbretton back in the day, but they are strictly a single malt maker. They only work in barley, and that's not what this is. So they're out. There was a brief mention in one document I found about a group called Compass Distillers, which is from Halifax. That is Nova Scotia. But they're a craft distillery, and they kind of make their own thing. They don't have the scale for what these guys did. I mean, maybe they provided some logistical assistance, but I doubt it. But to me, the logical thing is if you've got Michel involved, and Michel's already made a custom whiskey, the Spicebox, how did he do that? Well, he did it through Alberta Distillers. Well, of course he did, because that's the engine. Like, that place makes huge numbers of different whiskeys in various forms of white label. And you can make whatever you want from there. So I'm going to bet this is just another product out of Alberta Distillers. And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, right? We've drank plenty from them, many of which were excellent. The other part that'll freak you out about this is, of course, that whole conversation happened in 2022. They launched the next year in 2023. And by the end of 2023, they are all the way across Canada. So that is the opposite of a craft distillery. I mean, we've talked about craft distilleries been operating for a decade and haven't made it all the way across the country. These guys are everywhere in Canada. And in 2024, they started selling in the UK as well. By this year, they're in 136 stores in the UK. Sorry, no evidence they're in the US whatsoever. But clearly, this is a professional marketing group with a polished product and a pretty nice video on a website, who have gotten out there through the distribution channels to move this product very quickly.
Why did they push the idea that it's from Nova Scotia?
It's got nothing to do with Nova Scotia, except one of the guys has a house there, right? Like,
so
really.
Funny.
But I think it's the UK tie, because Kiefer, was born in the UK and has always done a lot of work in and around. So I think that might be a part of it. But we do know about what's in the bottle. And again, go ahead.
Just because this family name,
That's something like that. I don't know. And you got to make a play somehow. If it came out of Ontario or Alberta, you'd just know it's from the big producer, right? Like, hanging it on Nova Scotia it's off the beaten path, even though there's nothing about this is off the beaten path except the bottle itself.
It's marketing.
So what do we know about what's in this bottle? We know that because Michel has described how he made it, that it started with a rye for the flavor, for the spiciness. So that would have been probably a straight rye distillate, as the way Alberta Distillers does it, combined with some wheat for smoothness, and the rest is neutral corn spirit. Truly a blend. I don't know any ratios. It's only 40%, so I would suspect that more than half of this is just neutral grain spirit. Right away, I smell the corn, the sort of sweetness. No burn, though. This is only 40%, so they've taken the sharpness off by not making it too strong. I'm willing to want to like this. I don't like celebrity whiskeys most of the time.
It's very light.
Yeah, it's pale, but who knows how that color came to be too. There's no claims about no coloring or chill filtration or anything like that either. This is a 40%. This is a basic spirit. And by the way, I picked it up for $45 Canadian, so it's not an expensive whiskey. You wouldn't have any problem putting ice or anything else in this. As I got it up close, I got a little more of that neutral grain burn or flare, like bright nose, but it's not a lot of heat. This is a little sweet, a little nutty. There's nothing wrong with this. It's got a lot of heat going down, actually. For as gentle as it was on the mouth, I'm feeling quite warmed by it. All right. This is whiskey. I don't know why Kiefer likes this better than the others. It's kind of harmless, right? It's just sort of a straight up, you wouldn't have a problem putting this into a cocktail or drinking it neat's probably a bit much for it. It's kind of basic, just ice.
Yeah.
What's different from this from, say, that Pendleton we had that was made out of Alberta distillers, or even the Alberta 40 that we tried? Like, it is a celebrity whiskey. It's just not an awful one. How about that?
Yeah.
And then, near as I could tell, Kiefer was not just hanging his name on it. He was somewhat involved in the process. It was a friend of his idea. It seems like he was cool. A little bit more on board with it. Yeah. But you're not going to search this stuff out. It's just Red Bank. It's whiskey, so it's fine. It's like you said. It's going to be the exception to the celebrity whiskey rule, which is to say, it's not terrible. Most celebrity whiskeys, most celebrity products are not that good.
If you really want to make money, you make tequila. I don't know why, but all the
but even tequila. That we've had all kinds of problems with that. I know.
I don't
tequila.
Yeah, no, I know.
So generally speaking, I shy away from the celebrity whiskeys, but for this one, just because I saw the level of engagement, I'm like, okay, let's take it out for a spin. And what I got was pretty harmless whiskey. Just like, okay. At least you didn't ruin it. Yeah,
mostly harmless.
Not gonna change your life. I mean, if you're a Keith Sutherland fan, whatever. If you got a friend who's a Keith Sutherland fan, great, get him a bottle for $45 Canadian. Like, what do you care? It's not a big thing. He's obviously not that close a friend. You only bought him a cheap bottle of booze.
Yeah,
but at least you remembered he liked Kiefer. I don't.
Maybe this was just
24 was his claim to fame, right?
Yeah, he could just get involved with this company. Maybe if it was like a bigger company, that might not have been an option or something.
I wonder, because I was surprised about the Compass mention, because they're really a craft distiller. Like, I almost wonder if they started trying to see if they could get involved with a craft distiller to make something distinct, then realized it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah. And
then hired a pro who went off and just made them the whiskey they wanted.
Right.
That's probably.
I mean, at least it's not cinnamon flavored.
Not yet. But Halloween is coming.
Yeah. I might have to go hunt down that spice box just to find out how terrible it is.
Peanut butter's jelly time. Ladies and gentlemen,
we've occasionally run across awful celebrity things, and I've said, don't buy this. I'm not saying this here.
No, it's fine.
I mean, he's a big fan of Goop.
You should make a Rob Roy with it.
I celebrated into Kiefer Sutherland one time in like a train station in London.
Yeah. I like him.
He's a little guy too. Like, he's not a large human, right?
Was that 24? Was that was
24 was his claim to fame.
That was his big
show. Definitely a series that probably should have ended.
I think Lost Boys was his big claim to fame, but I see what you're saying.
That's a good one too. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Would you say he's a B-list? I would say he's a B-list.
Yeah, I think he never made it the way his father made it, but that's hard. That's hard job. Well, Donald Sutherland was a profoundly good actor.
His deal was longevity. Like, he was a big deal briefly in the 80s with the rest of that kind of Brat Pack group.
Yeah.
But as far as
I think he got out of it before it killed him, like it killed many of the others. And
Kevin says he was also in Metal Gear Solid 5.
That's too bad.
That might make him a C-list. I don't know.
I mean, you get a 10-season TV show run. I mean, at least you got some residuals.
No, I know. 24.
Yeah.
Big success. Big success.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Richard Campbell, our whiskey guru. You find all of his whiskey recommendations, more than 100 now. And disc recommendations at twit.tv/whiskey or somethingweirdfrommycloset.com. He is, of course, better known for his lovely podcast, Run as Radio. There's also .NET Rocks there with Carl Franklin. It's a all at runhisradio.com. He is a great speaker who was unusually at home because he's in such high demand. Most of the time he's...
I like having summer at home. It's
jet
very
setting.
good.
Jet setting. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could get you to Vegas for that. That was a lot of fun.
No, that was a ton of fun.
Really enjoyed
it was
that.
good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss a show in September because I'm doing a whiskey tour. But the side effect of that will probably be stories from 6 different distilleries. It'll last like the rest of the year. So.
Excellent. Very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Paul Thurrott is in Lower Macungie or Macungie. You pick.
As we call it.
As we call it. You'll find his oeuvre, his works at thurrott.com. If you're a premium member, you get even more goodness. THURRO good.com. And, of course, his books are at leanpub.com. But if you are a premium member, you get the books for free. So think about that. And together they form the dynamic duo of Windows reporting every Wednesday right here on Windows Weekly. We do it live, and you can watch it live. It'd be hard to do it dead. But,
unless you're voting.
That would be weird.
We do it live every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. If you do want us watch the live version of the show, we stream that for our club members in the Club Twit Discord, but also on YouTube for everyone. Watch at least a second. Twitch, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show are available at our website, twit.tv/WW. We do audio and video, so you can get the one you prefer. There's also a YouTube channel. That is video only. I guess that makes sense. And if you want to get it as a traditional podcast, we do offer downloads. In fact, it's a good idea to get it that way. Find your favorite podcast client and download away. It's absolutely free. Windows Weekly. That's all you have to search for. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you right back here next Wednesday on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. The show's over, but the listening continues at twit.tv. In fact, we've got so many great shows, I don't even know where to start. Well, how about Intelligent Machines? That's a show where we cover AI, robotics, and all this smart stuff all around you with 2 of the most fun, smart people I know, Paris Martineau and Jeff Jarvis. It's often philosophic. We sometimes debate. But if you're interested in AI in this world that is changing so fast, this is the show for you. Intelligent Machines. You'll find it at twit.tv/IM, our website, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be looking for you.